My wife is a beautiful CEO. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 501. The fox is taking advantage of the tiger's might. Su Chen finished speaking. Sun Zhaoxian was stunned. Then, his face was full of ecstasy. Mr. Su, are you serious? Sun Zhaoxian's face was full of excitement. If there is no other way, no one would be willing to leave their hometown. What's more, he has made a career in the provincial capital. If he leaves now, I'm afraid his life will be like this. Su Chen's words are tantamount to rekindling his hope. Of course it's true. Su Chen smiled. Sun Zhaoxian stared and said, but, Jinglin Villarandom. Su Chen waved his hand and said, since I'm willing to take you in, I will naturally take over the troubles of Jinglin Villa. Just tell me, are you willing? In addition, do you have the confidence to continue to hold your current position? Sun Zhaoxian nodded immediately. Mr. Su, of course I'm willing. But, if there is no big power behind me, I'm afraid other forces will directly attack me and then support their people to take the position. Su Chen smiled. Am I not a big power? Sun Zhaoxian was stunned. Yes. Although Su Chen is just one person, he is more powerful than the 8 major families in the provincial capital. Moreover, Sun Zhaoxian has witnessed Su Chen's terrifying strength with his own eyes. In Changjianju, Jin Donglei of Dan Group brought 3 great masters to Su Chen, ready to avenge Jin Kai and Cheng. As a result, 2 masters were killed on the spot by Su Chen, and the last one was so scared that he knelt down and begged for mercy. In the fireworks bar, Guan Yuanshan, the elder of the Wu Meng, brought Master Cheng, the innate master, to stand up for his brother Guan Qinghe, but was directly killed by Su Chen with one punch. In the end, even Guan Yuanshan himself bowed his head and gave in front of Su Chen. These 2 things were experienced by Sun Zhaoxian personally. He knew very well in his heart that Su Chen's force was not weaker than other forces in the provincial capital. More importantly, after Su Chen solved the problem these 2 times, he asked Jin Donglei and Guan Yuanshan to compensate him with a lot of money. This shows that, if you follow Su Chen, you will have meat to eat. Thinking of this, Sun Zhaoxian knelt down directly. Thank you Mr. Su for taking me in. From now on, I, Sun Zhaoxian, will follow Mr. Su's lead. Su Chen nodded and helped him up. Don't be so polite. In addition, you should practice martial arts more diligently. When you improve a little more, I will help you improve to Zuanjin. Sun Zhaoxian looked excited. Su Chen continued, don't worry, during this period, I will find a Yuan key master to come and protect you. Wait until everything is stable, or when you reach Zuanjin master, let him leave. He had made up his mind to let Tan Yangshan come to protect Sun Zhaoxian first. Sun Zhaoxian immediately clasped his fists and bowed. Thank you, Mr. Su. Su Chen smiled. You're welcome. As he spoke, Su Chen picked up the phone and called Tan Yangshan. The call was connected. Su Chen told him the situation. Tan Yangshan was a little surprised. I have heard of this Sun Zhaoxian. Mr. Su, you actually took him in. It's great. Don't worry about protecting him and leave it to me. I'll be there right away. Tan Yangshan is also impatient. Su Chen smiled and said, thank you for your hard work, Mr. Tan. When everything is stable, or when Sun Zhaoxian is promoted to the master of Zuanjin and has the ability to protect himself, Mr. Tan can leave. Tan Yangshan smiled. Mr. Su, you are too polite. I will never be able to repay you for your great kindness to me in my whole life. I will pack my things now and go there soon. He hung up the phone. Su Chen said to Sun Zhaoxian, Mr. Tan will be here in a while. Sun Zhaoxian showed a trace of gratitude on his face. Mr. Su, Su Chen waved his hand. Okay, don't thank me, my ears are almost calloused. Sun Zhaoxian smiled awkwardly. He thought about it and said, how about I treat you to a meal? Let's go to Changjianju, to brother Han Qiafeng's place. It just so happens that I haven't seen him these few days. He didn't answer the phone. I don't know what he is busy with. Su Chen shook his head and looked at the mess around him. Your family just had an accident, and there are still many things to clean up. You clean up the house first, and when your affairs are settled, we can have dinner together. Sun Zheoxian looked around, and there were broken furniture everywhere, as well as corpses and blood. He smiled awkwardly and nodded. Okay, Mr. Su, I'll listen to you. Su Chen said. Then you clean up first, I'll take my leave first. Sun Zheoxian hurriedly sent Su Chen to the door. Looking at Su Chen's leaving figure, Sun Zheoxian's face showed a touch of excitement. Now, he really hugged a thigh. Sun Zheoxian returned to the villa and quickly made a phone call. An anxious voice soon came from the other side. Husband, what's wrong? Can you escape? This call, Sun Zheoxian was calling his wife, Zhu Qinglian. Sun Zheoxian said excitedly, wife, we don't have to run away, we are saved. Zhu Qinglian was stunned. Sun Zheoxian continued, just now, Lu Qianli came to kill me, and almost killed me. Ah. Husband, are you okay? Zhu Qinglian screamed. Sun Zheoxian smiled and said, don't be afraid. Am I not doing well? Later, I used provocation to get him to make a phone call. Then, I asked Mr. Su Chen for help. Mr. Su came and killed Lu Qianli in a few moves, and also said that he would take me in the future. That means we don't have to leave Dongzhou province. Suddenly, Zhu Qinglian exclaimed in surprise, husband, is it true? That's great. The two were overjoyed. At this time, boom. The door of the villa was kicked open. A middle-aged figure walked in with 4 black-clad bodyguards. As soon as he entered the door, the middle-aged figure shouted at the top of his voice, Master Lu, why are you so slow? I can't wait. After the middle-aged figure entered the door, he saw Sun Zheoxian on the phone, and he was suddenly stunned. Sun Zheoxian's face changed, and he quickly hung up the phone. He stared at the middle-aged man, gritted his teeth and spit out 3 words, Yang Zinsheng. This Yang Zinsheng was the man in Jinglin Villa who fell in love with his wife Zhu Qinglian. Yang Zinsheng stared at Sun Zheoxian in a daze, with a hint of murderous intent on his face. Sun Zheoxian, how are you still alive? Where's Lu Qianli? Sun Zheoxian stared at Yang Zinsheng coldly, pointing to the corpse in the corner, isn't that there? Yang Zinsheng turned around and looked. Master Lu? Yang Zinsheng shouted in disbelief. It took him more than 10 seconds to accept this reality. Yang Zinsheng turned back and stared at Sun Zheoxian. Asshole, what the hell is going on? Sun Zheoxian's heart was beating, but he still had a tough expression on his face. He was killed. Can't you see? Let me ask you, who killed Master Lu? Yang Zinsheng said with gritted teeth. Sun Zheoxian said, the backer behind me. Su Chen. Su Chen? I've never heard of this name. Yang Zinsheng shouted. Sun Zheoxian gritted his teeth and said, if you don't know Su Chen, you must know Dan Group, right? You must know Guan Yuanshan of Wumeng, right? Call them and ask them if they know Su Chen. Yang Zinsheng's face changed slightly. He picked up his phone and sent 2 text messages. Then, he raised his head and stared at Sun Zheoxian. You'd better hope that this Su Chen is a big shot. Otherwise, you will end up very miserably. Of course, there is also your plump and charming wife. As he spoke, Yang Zinsheng licked his lips. Sun Zheoxian wanted to kill Yang Zinsheng in his heart, but he didn't dare to say anything more. Ding dong. Ding dong. 2 message alerts sounded. Yang Zinsheng looked down. After reading the message, his body suddenly trembled. Sun Zheoxian looked at Yang Zinsheng with a nervous face. All his confidence now is to borrow Su Chen's fame to bully others. If Su Chen's fame can't scare Sun Zheoxian, then he will be finished. Yang Zinsheng raised his head. He looked at Sun Zheoxian with a look of shock. Seeing his expression, Sun Zheoxian was immediately delighted. He gritted his teeth and said, Yang Zinsheng, Mr. Su said that you can talk to him if you have anything to say. Let's go. Yang Zinsheng gritted his teeth and turned around and left. He didn't even care about Lu Qianli's body. Sun Zheoxian breathed a sigh of relief. Huh. He looked ecstatic, picked up the phone again, and called his wife Zhu Qinglian. Wife, we are really saved. Chapter 502 turns out to be a grandson. Really? Zhu Qinglian's voice was pleasantly surprised. She said in fear, husband, you just hung up the phone so suddenly that I was almost scared to death. Sun Zheoxian said excitedly, wife, you don't know, just now that bastard Yang Zinsheng came. Ah. Zhu Qinglian screamed. He didn't do anything to you? Sun Zhaoxian said. No. Immediately, he told Zhu Qinglian everything that happened just now. Zhu Qinglian's face was full of surprise. So, you relied on Mr. Su's reputation to scare away that bastard Yang Bincheng? Yeah. Sun Zhaoxian nodded. He said excitedly, Mr. Su also told me to practice well, and when I reach the peak of dark energy, he will help me to advance to Zuan energy. Also, he will send a Yuan Qi master to protect us. In this way, our safety is also guaranteed. Zhu Qinglian heard it and became even more excited. She instructed, husband, Mr. Su is a great benefactor of our family. In the future, you must do things for Mr. Su well. Yeah. Sun Zhaoxian nodded heavily. His face was full of smiles. Sun Zhaoxian was full of expectations for the future again. On the other side, after Su Chen left Sun Zhaoxian's house, he looked at the time, and it was almost time for dinner. He took out his mobile phone and called Lu Daokan. Hello, Mr. Lu, have you eaten? Su Chen asked. Lu Daokan smiled. I had already eaten when I returned to the hotel just now. Su Chen nodded. Then I'll go eat by myself. Hang up the phone. Su Chen walked around, trying to find a random store. Suddenly, he found that he seemed to be quite close to Changjiaoju where Han Qiufeng was. Su Chen had eaten here once with Li Qingyan before, and felt that the taste was not bad. However, because Zhang Meeting and Liu Gang kept making trouble, and later Jin Qianqing and Jin Dan came to make trouble, Su Chen didn't have a good meal. Then let's go to Changjiaoju for a meal. It's just right. Sun Zhaoxian just said that he hadn't seen Han Qiufeng in the past 2 days. Su Chen thought and walked into Changjiaoju. Sure enough, there was no sign of Han Qiufeng in the store, but the business of the store was not affected. Su Chen asked the waiter to lead him to the hall and found a seat by the window. He ordered a few dishes and started eating. The food at Changjiaoju tasted really good, but the price was a bit expensive. Of course, for Su Chen now, this was nothing. Alas, I've fallen. It's easy to go from frugality to luxury, but it's hard to go from luxury to frugality. Su Chen smiled in his heart. When he first left the mountain village, he would feel distressed if he spent a few dozen yuan. Now he wouldn't feel anything if he spent hundreds or thousands of yuan on a meal. After all, just blackmailing those big dogs has made Su Chen a billionaire. Money is easy to make, but it's easy to spend it lavishly. Su Chen was eating. Suddenly, the waiter shouted, Brother Feng. Su Chen turned his head and looked. Then, he saw a man wearing a hoodie and a mask running to his table. Bang! The man knelt down directly. Mr. Su, please, save me, save the Han family. Su Chen was shocked. He saw it after a closer look. The man in front of him was none other than Han Qiufeng. Han Qiufeng? Su Chen asked in wonder, why are you dressed like this? Han Qiufeng took off his hat and mask. Mr. Su, I'm dressed like this to save my life. Something happened to my family, and something happened to the Zhu family too. Su Chen's face sank. What happened? Han Qiufeng gritted his teeth and said, I don't know exactly what happened. But, 2 days ago, my grandfather and my father suddenly transferred their shares of Changjiaoju to me, and gave the family's money to me and my mother, and asked me to leave the provincial capital as soon as possible. They also asked me to come back after everything is settled. But not long after that, something happened to the two of them. Su Chen frowned slightly. What happened? Han Qiufeng burst into tears. They both fell from a tall building. 2 people together? Su Chen asked. Han Qiufeng nodded. Yes. I asked around later, and someone said they fell down while cleaning the windows. But that's impossible. My dad is afraid of heights, and my grandpa is so old. How could he clean the windows? Someone must have pushed him down. Su Chen frowned slightly. Didn't you contact Han Kui and Han Daozheng? Han Kui is the main branch of the Han family. If something happens to the side branch, the main branch must be contacted. Han Qiufeng said in a deep voice. I contacted them, but the call was not connected. Besides, as soon as I called them, someone went to look for me in my hiding place, and I was so scared that I lost my phone and SIM card. Su Chen understood. No wonder Sun Zhaoxian said that he not only didn't see Han Qiufeng in the past 2 days, but he couldn't even contact him by phone. Su Chen said in a deep voice. According to what you said, something may have happened to the Han family. As he spoke, Su Chen took out his mobile phone and called Han Dao's Heng. No one answered. Then, Su Chen called Han Kiwi again. Still no one answered. Su Chen sighed. Sit down first and have something to eat together. After that, I'll go to the hospital with you to see your grandfather and your father. Then, let's go to the Han family together. Han Qiufeng's face was immediately filled with excitement. Thank you, Mr. Su. Thank you. At this moment, a sneer sounded. Han Qiufeng, you big rat, you really can hide. Your grandfather and your father are dying in the hospital, and you can't help but not go to see them. You are really unfilial. Han Qiufeng's face changed. He turned around abruptly. I saw a group of people walking in from the door of Changjianju. The leader was a young man in his 20s. Behind him, there were a dozen black-clad bodyguards. Another one was a middle-aged man in a green training suit, who looked to be in his 30s. Bincheng. Han Qiufeng gritted his teeth and called out the man's name. Su Chen raised his eyebrows slightly. This man's surname was Bei. I don't know if he has anything to do with the White Dragon King. Bincheng sneered and waved his hand. Immediately, his men began to clear the place. Some diners were unwilling, but when the bodyguards mentioned Bincheng's name, all the diners bowed their heads and left, not daring to say anything. Click. The door closed. Bincheng walked to where Su Chen sat. He sneered and stared at Han Qiufeng. Han Qiufeng, hand over your shares in Changjianju. Maybe I can spare your life. Han Qiufeng said angrily. Don't even think about it. Bincheng's face was full of fierceness. You are making things difficult for yourself. Then, he waved his hand. Go. Teach this kid a lesson. Immediately, 4 bodyguards in black were about to rush up. Su Chen said calmly, who are you to the White Dragon King? Bincheng looked at Su Chen. Boy, are you qualified to mention my grandfather's name? Su Chen said calmly, so he is a grandson. I advise you to turn around and leave now, and then let your grandfather stop his actions against the Han family. Otherwise, I will make him pay for it. Bincheng was stunned. Then, he laughed out loud. Haha. Did I hear it right? There are still people in the provincial capital who are pretending to be cool, pretending to be my grandfather. Boy, just for what you said just now, you are dead. As he said this, he waved his hand again. Take down these 2 people. Beat them half to death first. Suddenly, 4 bodyguards in black rushed up directly. Han Qiufeng's face changed. But Su Chen was not in a hurry, and he inserted the chopsticks into the plate. In one go, he picked up 4 peanuts. He flicked his hand. Whoosh. 4 peanuts. Like 4 bullets, they shot out rapidly. Puff puff puff. The 4 black-clad bodyguards screamed and fell to the ground. For a moment, everyone was stunned. I'm afraid the next chapter will be a little. Chapter 503. I advise you, don't advise. For a moment, everyone was stunned. Everyone looked over quickly. They saw that the 4 bodyguards were shot in the legs, and blood was constantly flowing out. The 4 people hugged their legs and fell to the ground. Their faces were full of pain, and they kept crying out in pain. Hiss. Everyone took a breath of cold air. The young man in front of them actually used peanuts to produce the effect of bullets. Han Qiufeng was overjoyed, but Bincheng had a gloomy face. Boy, you have something. Bincheng stared at Su Chen and gritted his teeth and said, but don't think that you can run rampant in the provincial capital just because you have some martial arts skills. Your martial arts skills are just garbage in the eyes of my Bei family. Kneel down now and beg for my forgiveness. Maybe I will give you a chance to become my personal bodyguard. Su Chen looked at him coldly and said lightly, you are ugly, but you have beautiful thoughts. Hearing this, Han Qiufeng almost laughed out loud, but Bincheng was stunned. Then, his face instantly turned red. Asshole, you're looking for death. Someone, give me. He hadn't finished speaking yet. Su Chen picked up the chopsticks. In an instant, another peanut quickly flew towards Bincheng. Bincheng's face changed drastically. Brother Wang, save me. The middle-aged man next to Bincheng suddenly flashed. In an instant, a long sword suddenly appeared in his hand. He raised his hand. The long sword swung like a flash of lightning, blocking the peanut. However, Even though the long sword was extremely fast, it still couldn't block the peanut. Puff. Bincheng only felt a pain in his calf. Then, he lost his balance and fell to the ground. Ah! Bincheng screamed. On his leg, a peanut was deeply embedded in the flesh. The middle-aged man's face changed drastically. Bincheng screamed in pain. Brother Wang, kill this guy. Kill him. The middle-aged man said in a deep voice, Sir, this matter has nothing to do with you. I suggest you don't interfere. Bincheng saw that the middle-aged man was still nagging, and his face was immediately furious. Wang Jinliang, didn't you understand what I said? I asked you to kill him. Wang Jinliang said in a deep voice, Master Bei, for your life safety, I think it's better not to make an enemy with this gentleman. Bincheng was stunned. He understood instantly. Wang Jinliang said this, probably because he was not sure of winning. There were no other family masters here. If Wang Jinliang was defeated, he might be in trouble. Thinking of this, Bincheng looked at Su Chen hatefully, but dared not speak again. Wang Jinliang turned his head. He clasped his fists towards Su Chen again and said, Sir, I suggest you don't get involved in this mess. Su Chen looked at him calmly and said, my advice to you is not to suggest it. Then just stand there obediently. Hearing this, Wang Jinliang's face rose. Bincheng's face looked even uglier. He gritted his teeth and said, Wang Jinliang, you kill him for me. I don't believe he dares to touch me. His meaning was also very clear. Even if Wang Jinliang lost, he didn't believe Su Chen would dare to kill him. Wang Jinliang gritted his teeth and said in a low voice, I'm sorry. Then, he danced a sword flower with the long sword in his hand and then stabbed out in an instant. This sword was fast and fierce. Shadowless sword? Su Chen raised his eyebrows. Wang Jinliang's sword was as fast as the wind, without a trace. In the blink of an eye, it was already in front of Su Chen's chest. It seemed that in the next second, it would pierce Su Chen's chest. At this moment, ding, a crisp sword sound rang out. Wang Jinliang's sword stopped in the air, unable to move anymore. Just because Su Chen used 2 fingers to hold his sword tightly, Wang Jinliang's face changed. His family's shadowless sword has always been known for its speed. Even if it gives up some attack power, he still pursues faster speed. However, the speed of his sword, which he was most proud of, became a joke in front of the young man in front of him. The other party only used 2 fingers to hold his sword. On the side, Bincheng was also stunned. Su Chen held Wang Jinliang's sword with 2 fingers. With his other hand, he picked up a peanut with chopsticks and put it into his mouth. While eating, he asked, who taught you this sword technique? Wang Jinliang's face was ugly. Su Chen's behavior was simply humiliating. Arrogant. Wang Jinliang held the sword with both hands and wanted to stab the sword down with force. However, Su Chen just flicked his fingers. Bang! A crisp sound. The sword trembled violently in an instant. Wang Jinliang could no longer hold the sword and was blown away. Puff! He spat out a mouthful of blood, looking at Su Chen in disbelief. He held the long sword between his 2 fingers. A shot of profound energy. What kind of cultivation is this young man? Wang Jinliang was shocked. He felt that even his father, who was in the Xianshan realm, was not so powerful. Su Chen looked at him again. Can you tell me now who taught you this sword technique? You know, my patience is limited. Wang Jinliang lowered his head and said, my dad. This is the sword technique passed down in my family. Su Chen said indifferently, then your dad should be an acquaintance of mine. Ask him to come over. Wang Jinliang's face changed several times. In the end, he picked up the phone and called his dad. By the way, there's you. Su Chen looked at Bincheng and said coldly, call your dad too and ask him to bring money to redeem you. Bincheng was shocked. He struggled to stand up, stared at Su Chen and asked, what did you say? Su Chen said coldly, you are so young, but your ears are not good. I told you to call your dad and bring money to redeem me. Bincheng pointed at Su Chen angrily and shouted, boy, you are so arrogant, just because you have some martial arts skills. Do you know that my Bei family? Puff. He didn't finish his words. Another peanut flew over. Puff. His other leg burst into blood instantly. Bang. Bincheng knelt down completely. Su Chen looked indifferent. Can you talk properly now? Bincheng looked desperate. This was the first time he encountered such a thing. Su Chen was the first one who dared to be so disrespectful, even though he knew he was a member of the Bei family. When you are under someone's roof, you have to bow your head. Okay, as long as you dare to let me call. Bincheng looked at Su Chen with resentment, then picked up the phone and called. On the side, Han Qiufeng looked anxious. Mr. Su, this Bei family. Su Chen raised his hand and said lightly, eat first. Leave the rest to me. Seeing Su Chen so calm, Han Qiufeng couldn't force anything, and could only wait. Soon, outside the Changyuan bureau, a burst of urgent footsteps sounded. An old man in his 60s rushed into the Changyuan bureau. When Wang Jinliang saw the person coming, he immediately shouted, "Dad!" The person who came was Wang Jinliang's father Wang Shen. Su Chen turned his head and saw Wang Shen's appearance. The corners of his mouth suddenly curled up with a smile. This is also an acquaintance. A few days ago, Jin Donglei of Dong Group came to avenge his son Jin Qiancheng and brought 3 martial arts masters to seek revenge on Su Chen. As a result, Jin Zhengfeng and Duan Zhangping were killed on the spot by Su Chen. The last martial arts master reacted the fastest and kowtowed for mercy at the first time. He escaped with his life. That person was Wang Shen, the shadowless sword. When Wang Jinliang drew his sword just now, Su Chen looked familiar. Now it seems that it is true. After Wang Shen entered the room, he was relieved to see that his son was fine. Jin Yang, you are not injured, right? Wang Shen asked with concern. Wang Jinyang shook his head. Dad, I'm fine. But Bei Xiao is injured. Wang Shen immediately looked at Bincheng. At this time, Bincheng saw Wang Shen and was overjoyed. Uncle Wang, you are here, so good. He pointed at Su Chen and shouted, that kid dared to hurt me. Please help me kill that kid. Wang Shen turned around and walked towards Su Chen's table. Dap. He walked to Su Chen's table. Kid. Wang Shen's words just came out of his mouth, and then he saw Su Chen slowly turned around. Seeing Su Chen's face, Wang Shen's remaining words were all blocked in his mouth. That night, the scene of Su Chen solving Jin Zhengfeng and Duan Zhangping with one move appeared in Wang Shen's mind again. Uncle Wang, please do it quickly. Bincheng urged on the side. However, bang, Wang Shen bent his knees. In the shocked eyes of Bincheng and Wang Jinliang, he knelt down in front of Su Chen. The next chapter will probably be after 3 o'clock. Let's go to bed early. Chapter 504 The Power of One Punch. Bang. The sound of Wang Shen's knee hitting the ground. It hit everyone's heart. Bincheng and Wang Jinliang were both confused. Uncle Wang, you. Bincheng was full of doubts, but they were all blocked in his mouth. Wang Shen's behavior has already explained many problems. Su Chen in front of him might not be as simple as he imagined. Su Chen glanced at Wang Shen and asked lightly, aren't you from Dong Group? How come you are now worshipper of the Bei family? Wang Shen trembled. He shook his head quickly and said, Mr. Su, you misunderstood. I'm no longer a member of Dong Group, but I'm not a worshipper of the Bei family. My son Wang Jinliang is not a worshipper of the Bei family either. He is a friend of Bincheng, so he came to help. Wang Shen lowered his head. Since he and Jin Donglei fell in front of Su Chen a few days ago, Wang Shen has left Dong Group. But he didn't expect to meet Su Chen today. Su Chen sneered. Now that Bincheng asked you to kill me, are you going to kill me or not? Wang Shen waved his hands quickly. Mr. Su, don't joke. You just spared my life a few days ago. This is a great favor you have done to me. I'm just worried that I won't have the chance to repay you. How could I possibly attack you? That would be worse than a beast. Besides, with my cultivation level, wouldn't it be humiliating to attack you? Wang Shen smiled flatteringly. Although he didn't know whether Wang Shen's words were true or not, Su Chen felt good after hearing them. He said lightly, in that case, you should take your son and stand aside, and don't interfere. Wang Shen quickly stood up. Thank you, Mr. Su. He walked aside and pulled his son Wang Jinliang over. Go. Thank Mr. Su for sparing your life. Wang Jinliang paused. He looked a little reluctant and said, Dad, Wang Shen kicked Wang Jinliang in the butt. Bang. Wang Jinliang almost stumbled. What do you mean by me? Even your father, Mr. Su, spared his life. Do you think you are better than me? Wang Shen was furious. Wang Jinliang hurried forward and knelt down in front of Su Chen. He lowered his head. Thank you, Mr. Su, for sparing my life. Stand aside, Su Chen said while eating. Yes. The father and son of the Wang family stood aside obediently, not daring to speak. Su Chen turned his eyes to Bincheng. Tell me, what are you doing to the Han family? Bincheng glanced at Su Chen and lowered his head without saying a word. Su Chen raised his hand casually. Boom. A stream of energy hit Bincheng hard. Bincheng's body flew out like a rag doll. He knocked over several tables in succession before stopping. In the end, Bincheng fell among a pile of tables and chairs, wailing in pain. Su Chen glanced at Wang Shen. Wang Shen gritted his teeth. He turned around and walked to Bincheng's side. Uncle Wang. Without waiting for Bincheng to speak, Wang Shen grabbed him and walked towards Su Chen again. Puff. Wang Shen put Bincheng in front of Su Chen without saying a word and then returned to his seat. Bincheng was covered in blood and his face was full of pain. Now, can you tell me what your Bei family is doing to the Han family? Su Chen looked at Bincheng with a very calm expression. But Bincheng had no doubt that, if he dared to be stubborn again, Su Chen would definitely take action again. Thinking of this, Bincheng felt humiliated. In the past, he always bullied others by taking advantage of his power, and he had never been treated like this before. Well, still not telling me. Su Chen's eyes gradually became cold. Bincheng's face changed, and he spoke quickly. I'll tell you. Our Bei family is preparing to take action against the Han family and annex the Han family's industry. I'm the third generation of the family, so I can only find some side branch industries to enrich my own pockets. This Wanqiu is the industry of the side branch Han Feng's family. I like it, so. Su Chen's face turned cold. So, you first went to grab Han Feng's grandfather and father, but found that they had transferred all their shares to Han Feng. Then, you went to find him everywhere. In order to force him out, you even pushed his grandfather and father down the stairs, leaving them seriously injured and dying, right? Bincheng's face was ugly, but he finally nodded. On the side, Han Feng said angrily, you bastard. You Bei family are all bastards. Although he was scolded by Han Feng, Bincheng still didn't dare to talk back. Su Chen asked coldly, have you called your dad? Bincheng nodded, yes. Su Chen said lightly, then wait until he comes over, then we can talk. Bincheng lowered his head and dared not speak again. Soon, a burst of hurried footsteps sounded outside Wanqiu. Crack. The door of the store opened. A group of people rushed in. Leading them was a middle-aged couple. The man had a square face, narrow eyes, and was quite sinister, while the woman was dressed like a noble lady, with jewels and gems. The expressions on their faces were very anxious. These two people were Bincheng's father Bincheng and his mother Yuping. Behind them, there were 4 bodyguards and 2 old men in long gowns. Seeing the people coming, Bincheng immediately shouted, Dad, Mom, I'm here. Save me. Yuping's face changed, and she hurried over. When she saw Bincheng's miserable appearance, she hugged Bincheng in her arms. Zai okay. Son. What's wrong with you? Who the hell beat my son like this? Bincheng, what are you still standing there for? Hurry up and find the bastard who beat our son. I'm going to make him live a life worse than death. Bincheng was furious when he saw his son's miserable appearance. He stared at Su Chen and said coldly, boy, are you the one who beat my son like this? Su Chen nodded. It was me. Good. You're so brave. Bincheng gritted his teeth and said hatefully. Then, he turned and looked at Wang Shen on the side. Master Wang, you are here, watching my son being beaten, right? Bincheng's eyes revealed a murderous look. At this moment, he hated Wang Shen as well. Wang Shen's face was painful. Who the hell did he offend? He was involved in the fight between Su Chen and the Bei family. The key is that he can't afford to offend either side. After thinking for a while, Wang Shen said, Master Bei, I'm really sorry. Mr. Su spared my life. Also, I think your son did go a little too far. After saying this, Wang Shen stood on Su Chen's side. Su Chen was a little surprised and looked at him. Just now, when Wang Shen said something about sparing his life, Su Chen thought he was just talking. Now it seems that it really is the case. Good. Very good. Bei Xinluo's face was livid. It seems that in Master Wang's heart, our Bei family is not as good as this young boy. Then I will let Master Wang see the strength of our Bei family. As he spoke, Bei Xinluo waved his hand. Two masters, help me take down this kid. As the voice fell, behind Bei Xinluo, two Yuan Qi masters flashed out in an instant and rushed straight to Su Chen. The surging Yuan Qi swept over. However, Su Chen still sat in his seat, picking up food with an unchanged expression. The two Yuan Qi masters felt even more humiliated. The Yuan Qi in their bodies burst out instantly, wanting to kill Su Chen completely. Seeing this scene, Wang Shen's face changed drastically. The two Yuan Qi masters joined forces to attack, and even he had to temporarily hold back. Su Chen's behavior was really too underestimated. However, the next second, Su Chen punched out. The blazing flame Yuan Qi, after being amplified by the 9 extremes, instantly increased to more than 3 times. Boom. The two Yuan Qi masters' faces suddenly changed. This kind of attack is impossible even for the demigod realm. This has exceeded the limit of the innate realm. It's too late to retreat. The two gritted their teeth and burst out all the Yuan Qi in their bodies to resist. However, puff. In a single encounter, the Yuan Qi of the two was completely destroyed. The blazing flame Yuan Qi instantly submerged the two people completely. Bang, bang. The two figures were thrown out fiercely. They flew more than 10 meters away and then smashed hard against the wall. The next second, the two heads tilted and died completely. Everyone looked at Su Chen in shock. Under one punch, it was so terrifying. Two masters worked together, but still lost their lives. Oh. Finally finished writing it. Kakaka. Good night. I can't bear it anymore. I feel like I need to sort out the detailed outline. Chapter 505. Where did you learn this bad habit? Two masters of the Xianshan realm died just like that. But Su Chen didn't even get a slight injury. In front of Su Chen, the Yuan Qi masters seemed to be two ordinary people, without causing any ripples. Everyone was stunned on the spot. On the side, Wang Shen swallowed hard. For some reason, he clearly felt that Su Chen's attack this time seemed to be more powerful than a few days ago. Is this the world of geniuses? Obviously, he was already so powerful, but in just a few days, his attack power seemed to have increased several times. Wang Jinliang stood beside his father, his body trembling a little. At this moment, he finally understood why his father knelt down and surrendered to Su Chen. With such a terrifying fighting power, even if his father Wang Shen did it himself, he would probably only die tragically. The most shocked was Bei Xinluo. He turned his head to look at the two dead masters, and drops of cold sweat instantly flowed out. Although these two masters were not masters at the peak of the Xianshan realm, they were by no means weak. After all, when he brought people out, he had already thought that he might have to fight with others. Therefore, the two people he selected were masters with strong fighting ability. As a result, they were killed by the young man in front of them. You, who are you? Bei Xinluo stared at Su Chen. Su Chen said indifferently, my name is Su Chen. I think you should have heard of him. Hearing this name, Bei Xinluo's body trembled violently. Of course, he had heard of the word Su Chen. This name has long been on the Bei family's must-kill list, but it has never been realized. Ever since Su Chen killed Ding Dong Heo in Yao Wang Valley, his father, Bei Lan Wang, said that he would kill Su Chen. As a result, he sent his disciple crossing Xianjiu to kill Su Chen, but he died in Su Chen's hands. Later, Jin Guang elder Jin Dingsheng also made a move and died in Su Chen's hands. Jing Weibing, the richest man in Bincheng, made a move but was finally swallowed up. Then, King Shenman in Yicheng was destroyed, and Long Heian was captured. And the name Su Chen became more and more famous in the Bei family. Everyone in the Bei family knew in their hearts, without using the divine realm, they could no longer deal with Su Chen. Thinking of this, Bei Xinluo finally got scared. He forced a smile on his face. So you are Mr. Su. Sorry. Mr. Su, as the saying goes, it is better to resolve a feud than to create one. This is all a misunderstanding. Su Chen sneered at him and asked, can the misunderstanding between me and your Bei family be resolved? Bei Xinluo was stunned and had nothing to say. The conflict between the Bei family and Su Chen was bound to be a matter of life and death, and there was no way to reconcile it. He smiled bitterly and said, Mr. Su, I'm not talking about the conflict between you and the Bei family. It's the conflict between my rebellious son and you this time. As he spoke, Bei Xinlei bent down and said, Mr. Su, my little beast has offended you. I apologize to you on his behalf. Su Chen sneered and pointed at Han Qiufeng and said, Bei Xinlei did not offend me, but Han Qiufeng's family. If you want to apologize, you should find him. Bei Xinlei turned around quickly, clasped his fists, and bowed to Han Qiufeng and said, Mr. Han, I apologize to you on behalf of my rebellious son. Don't worry, he will never take action against your family again. Han Qiufeng was shocked when he saw Bei Xinlei doing this to him. This is the son of the White Dragon King, and he would be so humble to him, and promised not to attack his family again. Han Qiufeng turned his head and looked at Su Chen, his eyes full of gratitude. Only someone like Mr. Su can force the Bei family to do this. At this time, Su Chen said, is it enough to just apologize and stop? Your son threw Han Qiufeng's grandfather and father down from the building, and that doesn't count? Bei Xinlei was stunned. At this time, Yu Ping interrupted and said, my son was also injured. Isn't that enough? Su Chen's eyes froze, and he struck out with a palm. Boom. The strong vitality directly hit Yu Ping. Puff. Yu Ping flew out directly, rolling more than 10 meters on the ground before stopping. At this time, she was covered in dust, her clothes were torn, and her face was covered in blood. There was no longer the appearance of a noble lady before. Bei Xinlei was shocked. Su Chen asked coldly, Bei Xinlei, who has the final say in your family? If you don't have the final say, let your wife discuss it with me. If you have the final say, let her shut up. Bei Xinlei hurriedly said, I have the final say. I will discuss it with you. On the other side, Yu Ping struggled to get up. Su Chen didn't want to kill her just now, so he showed mercy. Yu Ping walked quickly to Bei Xinlei's side. Husband, this bastard hit me. You should kill him. Yu Ping's face was full of resentment. Snap. Bei Xinlei raised his hand and slapped her in the face. You apologize to Mr. Su and shut up. Bei Xinlei stared at her with vicious eyes. This woman is like an idiot. She can't understand the current situation. Looking at Bei Xinlei's eyes, Yu Ping shuddered with fear. She gritted her teeth and said to Su Chen, I'm sorry, Mr. Su. After saying that, she shut her mouth with a humiliated look. Su Chen didn't even look at Yu Ping. He continued to ask, tell me, how to solve the problem of Han Qiufeng's grandfather and father. Bei Xinlei gritted his teeth and said, we are willing to bear the medical expenses. Hearing this, Su Chen almost laughed out of anger. Haha. Medical expenses? Su Chen's eyes turned cold. Very good. Then I will throw your family of 3 off the building now. Not only will I bear the medical expenses, but I can also bear your funeral expenses. Okay. Bei Xinlei trembled. He said quickly, compensation. I'm willing to compensate 500 million. Su Chen nodded. Okay. If each person pays 500 million, then the 2 people will get 1 billion. Transfer the money. Bei Xinlei was stunned. He said a total of 500 million. He quickly explained, Mr. Su, Before he finished speaking, Su Chen said, 1.4 billion. If you say one more word, I will give you an additional 100 million. Bei Xinlei held his words in his mouth. If you have no objection, transfer the money now. Su Chen said lightly. Bei Xinlei gritted his teeth and transferred 1.4 billion to Han Qiufeng. Han Qiufeng was still confused until he received the receipt information. He could never have imagined that the Bei family would really bow their heads like this. On the side, Wang Shen and Wang Jinliang were also stunned. Mr. Su, I have already compensated. Can I leave now? Bei Xinlei asked. Su Chen said calmly, you should tell your son clearly to stop all actions against Han Qiufeng's family. Also, remember to find the White Dragon King and tell him not to attack the main branch of the Han family. Bei Xinlei turned his head and glanced at Bei Xingke. He knew that his father's actions must have been revealed by this rebellious son. Bei Xinlei gritted his teeth and said, Mr. Su, I can make decisions about Han Qiufeng's family. But the matter of the main branch of the Han family is controlled by my father, and I have no say. Su Chen said coldly, I just informed you and asked you to tell the White Dragon King. If he doesn't do it, he will bear the consequences. Okay. Bei Xinlei nodded. Then, He asked someone to carry his son and wife on his back and walked out. When he reached the door, Basinley turned his head. His face was gloomy, and he said to Su Chen, "Mr. Su, I'm fortunate to see your style today. I hope you take care of yourself and live a safe life." Su Chen snorted coldly. He pulled out a palm. The terrifying energy, like a slap in the face, slapped Basinley's face hard. Basinley was whipped up and flew straight into the gate of Changjianju. Boom. The whole gate was smashed in an instant. Puff. Basinley spat out a mouthful of blood. He struggled to stand up and looked at Su Chen in disbelief. Su Chen said coldly, "Where did you learn this bad habit? You feel uncomfortable if you don't say something sarcastic, right? You really deserve a beating." Basinley's face was ugly. He quickly lowered his head and disappeared quickly with his wife and son. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 506. Can he defeat the gods? Seeing Basingke's family fleeing in panic, Han Qiufeng's eyes showed gratitude. Bang! Han Qiufeng knelt directly in front of Su Chen. "Mr. Su, thank you." Bang! Bang! As he spoke, Han Qiufeng kowtowed to Su Chen. Su Chen stretched out his hand, and a stream of energy lifted Han Qiufeng up. "Mr. Han, there is no need to do this. It's just a little effort." Han Qiufeng looked grateful. "This is not a little effort. The Bei family is the head of the 8 major families in the provincial capital. Who dares to offend them?" Su Chen smiled. He himself had a grudge against the White Dragon King, and there was no difference between offending him once and offending him countless times. Han Qiufeng hurriedly said, "Mr. Su, I can't take the money that Basinley gave me. I'd better transfer it to you." As he spoke, he was about to transfer it to Su Chen. Su Chen waved his hand to refuse. "I said it's for you, so it's for you." Seeing that Su Chen insisted on doing so, Han Qiufeng could only thank him again and again. On the side, Wang Jinliang and Wang Shen were shocked and envious. Su Chen was too mysterious in the eyes of the two. Su Chen's martial arts skills were too high to be true. If combined with his age, he was even more talented. Su Chen's temper, he could be said to be hot-tempered when he attacked Basinley and Yuping. But his attitude towards Han Qiufeng was very loyal and affectionate. Such people were too rare. Su Chen turned his head to look at the father and son. "You two, aren't you going?" Su Chen asked. Wang Shen quickly clasped his fists and bowed. "I want to follow Mr. Su and see if I can help." Wang Jinliang, who was standing aside, looked at his father with some surprise. It was obvious that his father was trying to get close to Su Chen. Su Chen smiled. It seemed that Wang Shen was really ready to join him. Wang Shen smiled bitterly in his heart. Just now, his attitude towards Basinley had offended the Bei family. If he didn't find a big thigh to hold on to, he would probably have a hard time in the future. Although Su Chen looked very young, but Wang Shen had some inexplicable trust in him. He always felt that this Su Chen would achieve amazing success. Before, Wang Shen was under Jin Danglei of Dan Group and asked his son to approach the Bei family and bet on the two families. But this time, Wang Shen decided to take his son to Su Chen. Su Chen turned around and asked, "Then I'm going to the hospital with Mr. Han, do you want to go?" Wang Shen nodded, "Of course." Su Chen smiled. After a simple meal, several people got in the car and headed towards the central hospital. Along the way, Han Qiufeng was quite excited. "Mr. Su, thank you. Before, I always wanted to come and see my dad and grandpa, but I found someone staring at them. I guessed that they must be waiting for me to take the bait, so I could only force myself to hold back. Now, I can finally come and see them. I just don't know if they are seriously injured or if their lives are in danger." Su Chen smiled and said, "Don't worry. As long as they are still breathing, I guarantee that they will be fine." Han Qiufeng said with surprise, "Mr. Su, do you know medical skills?" Su Chen nodded. "I know a little. Don't worry." In the back row, Wang Shen and Wang Jinliang frowned slightly. Medical skills and martial arts are completely different things. Su Chen said this in a somewhat arrogant tone. After all, it was related to the life and death of Han Qiufeng's family, and he should not make random promises. Han Qiufeng was anxious, so he drove very fast. Soon, everyone arrived at the hospital. Han Qiufeng first found the front desk nurse station to confirm the wards for his grandfather and father, and then took Su Chen and the other two to rush over. The four just arrived at the door of the ward. Suddenly, several men in flowered shirts came up. Ha ha ha. Today, I'm lucky. I caught up with them. Han Qiufeng, you are such a bastard that you can endure it so long to come and see your dad and grandpa. Now, you are going to be my cash cow. The leader was a man with pock marks on his face. This man was called Li Yuanbao, and he was the thug who was waiting for Han Qiufeng here. Li Yuanbao blocked the door of the ward and sneered, Han Qiufeng, you'd better not look at it. You will only feel uncomfortable after watching it. Follow me, leopard. Wait a minute. Su Chen said, don't you know that the mission to capture Han Qiufeng has been cancelled? Li Yuanbao was stunned. What? Cancelled? How come I don't know? Su Chen understood that Bincheng must have not had time to notify him. You can find out if you make a phone call, Su Chen said indifferently. Li Yuanbao pouted and said, you asked me to make a call, so I made a call. Get out of my way. As he spoke, he stretched out his hand to grab Han Qiufeng. However, before he could reach him, Su Chen slapped him in the face. Bang! Li Yuanbao flew out directly. Brother Bao. Several younger brothers hurried forward and helped Li Yuanbao up. Li Yuanbao stared at Su Chen with anger on his face. You bastard, you dare to hit me, Bao Yi. Brothers, come on. Then, 6 or 7 gangsters rushed over directly. Su Chen hadn't made a move yet. On the side, Wang Jinliang rushed out directly. Bang, bang, bang. After several consecutive noises, several people crawled on the ground and groaned in pain. Su Chen was a little surprised and looked at Wang Jinliang. Wang Jinliang just bowed his fist respectfully to Su Chen. Seeing this scene, Wang Shen secretly gave his son a thumbs up. His son is still very perceptive. Li Yuanbao looked scared. You. Su Chen said calmly, now, can you call and ask? Okay, I'll call. Li Yuanbao quickly dialed Bincheng's mobile number. Soon, the call was connected. Hello, Master Bei, I found Han Qiufeng. He is in the hospital now. Li Yuanbao came up to take credit first. However, Bincheng's impatient voice came from the other side. Just found it. Why call me? The operation is cancelled. If you want to die, just keep catching him. Don't send him to me. Li Yuanbao looked confused. The operation was really cancelled. The key is that he heard a sense of timidity in Bincheng's tone. Even the young master of the Bei family is afraid. So what is he? Su Chen asked. Are you going to catch him? Go. Li Yuanbao swallowed his saliva. He smiled apologetically and said, well, it's a misunderstanding. Bosses, I'm leaving first. As he spoke, he quickly called a few men and ran away. On the other side, in a luxury car, Bincheng hung up the phone angrily. Bincheng glanced at him and asked, what's wrong? Did Su Chen and the others go to the hospital? Bincheng nodded. Then, he gritted his teeth and said, Dad, you have to avenge me. I was treated so badly by Su Chen. If he doesn't die, I will never be reconciled in this life. Yuping also had a face full of resentment. I must kill this little beast, otherwise I will never be able to raise my head in this life. Yeah. Bincheng nodded. Don't worry. Father has wanted to take action against Su Chen for a long time. He won't be rampant for a few days. He thinks he can run rampant in the provincial capital just because he killed a few innate masters. He also wants father to stop his attack on the Han family. What a joke. Once father's backup plan comes out, it will be his death. He can kill the Zhuan realm, but can he kill the Shen realm? Haha. Hearing this, Bincheng and Yuping finally showed a satisfied smile on their faces. On the other side, in front of the ward door, Li Yuanbao and others ran away. Han Qiufeng quickly pushed open the door of the ward and looked over. However, after the door of the ward was opened, everyone was stunned, because there was no one in the ward. The next chapter may be around 1 o'clock. Chapter 507 Older Mortal. Grandpa. Dad. Han Qiufeng's face showed anxiety. Su Chen was also a little puzzled. Just now, he forgot to use his mental power to scan. Therefore, he did not notice that there was no one in the ward. Otherwise, leaving Li Yuanbao to ask, maybe he could get the answer. Han Qiufeng looked flustered. Su Chen comforted, don't worry, go find the doctors and nurses first, they must know. Yes, yes, yes. Han Qiufeng nodded quickly. The four walked out of the ward and stopped a passing nurse and asked. The nurse explained, are you talking about the two patients Han Qian and Han Daoking? They were seriously injured and had been rescued and were out of danger. But then something went wrong and they are now being rescued in the operating room. The current situation is still very dangerous. Hearing this, Han Qiufeng was a little unsteady at the time. Mr. Su, my dad and grandpa are dying. Han Qiufeng looked panicked. Su Chen said seriously, don't worry, I'm here. I will definitely make sure they are fine. The nurse looked at Su Chen and said, TSK. What a boaster. Drives Zhou Changchen from our hospital. Doesn't dare to boast like this. After saying that, the nurse left. Su Chen laughed dumbly. The four of them hurried to the operating room. At this time, a doctor came out of the operating room with a tired face. On him, there was a sign that reads Zhou Changchen. Han Qiufeng hurried forward and stopped him, saying, Dr. Zhou, were you rescuing Han Qian and Han Daoking just now? That's my grandfather and my father. How are they doing? Zhou Changchen's face didn't look good when he heard it. Why did you come just now? The patients have been sent to the hospital for such a long time, and these family members don't show up every day. If I hadn't signed as a guarantor, your grandfather and your father wouldn't have been able to have surgery. Did you know that? Han Qiufeng's face was shocked. It turned out that it was this doctor who signed for him. Su Chen was also quite surprised. He had heard before that in big cities, conflicts between doctors and patients were particularly serious. There were even people who specialized in making trouble for the doctors. This also made many doctors afraid to take responsibility. It was rare that Zhou Changchen dared to take the risk to sign the contract when Han Qian and Han Daoking were in such danger. Han Qiufeng was grateful. Thank you, Dr. Zhou. Thank you. Well, I went to ask for a miracle doctor for my dad and my grandpa, so I came late. Hearing this, Zhou Changchen's face suddenly darkened. What do you mean? Do you think our hospital's doctors are not good enough? Han Qiufeng's face changed. He was a little anxious just now and just remembered that Su Chen said he had medical skills, so he made up an excuse. But he didn't notice that saying this in front of the doctor was really hateful. I'm sorry, Dr. Zhou. Han Qiufeng apologized quickly. He quickly changed the subject and asked, Dr. Zhou, how are my dad and my grandpa? Dr. Zhou glared at Han Qiufeng, but didn't continue to argue with him. He explained, the conditions of both patients are not good. They have lost too much blood, their internal organs are seriously damaged, and there are a lot of fractures, intracranial decompression. Anyway, the situation is very bad, and something may happen at any time. Su Chen frowned slightly. He sent out his spiritual power, entered the operating room, and observed the conditions of Han Daoking and Han Qian. When Han Qiufeng heard Dr. Zhao's introduction, his face turned pale and his body trembled. Seeing this, Dr. Zhou hurriedly advised, but don't worry too much. You are very lucky. Our hospital just held a lecture and invited the divine Dr. Ban Sansin from the Saint Hand list. The divine Dr. Ban just finished the lecture, and I was about to invite him. If the divine Dr. Ban treats the patients personally, I guess your father and grandfather will be fine. Han Qiufeng heard this, and his face was immediately overjoyed. Great. Thank you, Dr. Zhou. Dr. Zhou waved his hand. Don't thank me. The divine Dr. Ban will be here soon. Wait until he treats your family, and you can thank him. Han Qiufeng nodded. At this time, Su Chen said lightly, the conditions of Han Qian and Han Daoking are too serious. With the medical skills of Ban Sansin, it should be impossible to handle it. Hearing this, Han Qiufeng was stunned. Zhou Changchen was furious. Boy, do you know who Dr. Ban is? You are talking nonsense. Besides, you don't even understand the patient's condition, and you dare to speak nonsense here. If Dr. Ban can't cure it, can you? Su Chen nodded. Based on the current condition of the two patients, I'm the only one who can cure them. After observing just now, Su Chen found that the conditions of Han Qian and Han Daoking were more serious than Yao Shan before. Unless he used the longevity energy and combined it with some ancient medical skills, it would be difficult to save them by other means. However, Zhou Changchen was furious when he heard this. Arrogant. He looked at Han Qiufeng coldly. Is this the miracle doctor you invited? Humph. Nonsense. As he said this, Zhou Changchen ignored the few people and went to the elevator to wait. Han Qiufeng looked embarrassed and said to Su Chen, Mr. Su, let's go and welcome Dr. Bian together. It would be bad if he refuses treatment because of my impoliteness. Su Chen smiled and said, don't worry. He won't dare to refuse with me here. Besides, he really can't cure your father and grandfather's condition. Han Qiufeng looked helpless. On the side, Wang Shen and Wang Jinliang looked at each other with confusion in their eyes. In their hearts, they also felt that Su Chen was a little too arrogant. This was a matter of life and death for him. How could he do this? At this moment, Wang Shen suddenly hesitated whether he should continue to rely on Su Chen. On the other side, in the reception room of the Central Hospital, Deputy Director Zhang Zhiheng was entertaining Dr. Bian with a smile on his face. Zhang Zhiheng said gratefully, Drive Bian, thank you for your lecture today. All the doctors in our hospital have learned a lot, especially your many views on acupuncture, which opened my eyes. You are called the god of needles in the industry, and it is really well deserved. Bian Sanson waved his hands and said, don't say that. I can't bear the title of god of needles. In Dongzhou province, I have seen other miracle doctors with their own eyes, and their attainments in acupuncture are thousands of times better than mine. Zhang Zhiheng laughed and said, Drive Bian, you are too modest. Your achievements in acupuncture are already superb. In our Dongzhou province, there is only one miracle doctor on the saint hand list, Mr. Lu Daokan from Yicheng. Although Mr. Lu has made great achievements in ancient medical skills, he can't compare with you in acupuncture. Hearing Zhang Zhiheng mention that Lu Daokan is not as good as himself, Bian Sanson smiled immediately. Haha. You are right about this. That's just the way Lu Daokan's medical skills are. Ha ha ha. Zhang Zhiheng was a little surprised. Why is Bian Sanson so humble and proud at the same time? When he evaluates himself, he modestly says that he is far from it. When he talks about Lu Daokan, he looks disdainful. Is there a conflict with Lu Daokan? Zhang Zhiheng knows it. He immediately flattered him and said, although Lu Daokan is also a divine doctor on the saint hand list, he is only ranked 28th after all. And you are in the top 10. Of course he can't compare with you. We can't find a doctor as skilled as you in the entire Dongzhou province. Zhang Zhiheng flattered him while looking at Bian Sanson's face. Sure enough, when he said the first sentence, Bian Sanson was smiling. But when he said the second half of the sentence, Bian Sanson's expression changed slightly. You can't say that. Bian Sanson frowned. In Dongzhou, there are people whose medical skills are more than 10 times better than mine. Zhang Zhiheng was stunned. Mr. Bian, are you kidding? Even if he is number 1 on the saint hand list, he won't be 10 times better than you. How is that possible? Who is this person? Bian Sanson shook his head and smiled. I'm not kidding. The person I'm talking about should have better medical skills than the number 1 on the saint hand list. Because he is my master. Zhang Zhiheng was stunned. Bian Sanson's hair and beard are already white. He actually has a master? Then how old is his master? He is simply an older mortal. Zhang Zhiheng's heart suddenly became enthusiastic. If we invite this older mortal to the hospital, wouldn't it be a great achievement? The third update is here. The next update will be done before 2:30. Everyone go to bed first. Chapter 508. It's not okay for trees to grow on graves. Zhang Zhiheng was very excited. If he could invite Bian Sanson's master to the hospital, he would make a lot of money. Whether it is teaching a few tricks to all the doctors in the hospital, or leaving a few powerful prescriptions, these are priceless treasures. Moreover, Bian Sanson's master is from Dongzhou province, so the success rate of this matter is not low. The more Zhang Zhiheng thought about it, the more excited he became. His eyes lit up, and he stared at Bian Sanson. Old Bian, what is your master's name, and where does he live in seclusion? Bian Sanson saw Zhang Zhiheng's expression, and immediately understood his thoughts. What do you want to do? Are you planning to take advantage of my master? Bian Sanson sneered. Zhang Zhiheng forced a smile and said, I'm just thinking about letting your master, the old man, make use of his remaining energy. Hearing this, Bian Sanson immediately glared and said, bullshit remaining energy. My master, he is in his prime. When grass grows on your grave, he may still be alive and well. The smile on Zhang Zhiheng's face rose. He knew he had said something wrong, and hurriedly said, sorry, Master Bian, I said the wrong thing. Please don't be angry. Bian Sanson said, I'm not angry with you, I'm telling the truth. You haven't seen my master, otherwise you would know that you can't live longer than him. Haha. Zhang Zhiheng smiled awkwardly. Your master has a way to keep healthy. However, he was complaining in his heart. Bian Sanson is already in his 70s or 80s, and his master must be at least 100 years old. How can he live longer than me? Isn't this nonsense? However, he was too embarrassed to say this. Bian Sanson understood Zhang Zhiheng's thoughts, but he was too lazy to explain to him. Anyway, don't think about my master. He has always liked freedom, and doesn't want to be constrained at all. Suddenly, Bian Sanson said, by the way, didn't you say before that a father and son fell from a building and were seriously injured? Let's go and take a look. Zhang Zhiheng said, yes, both the father and the son are still in danger. I saw that you just finished your lecture, so I wanted to let you rest first. No need. Bian Sanson waved his hand. The patient's condition is critical, and we can't delay. Let's go there quickly. Zhang Zhiheng nodded immediately. Bian, you are really a kind-hearted doctor. Soon, Zhang Zhiheng sent a message to Zhou Changchen, and then led Bian Sanson to rush over. Zhou Changchen saw the text message, and was immediately happy. Not long after, the elevator door opened. Vice Dean Zhang Zhiheng and Bian Sanson walked out of the elevator. Zhou Changchen hurriedly greeted them respectfully. Hello, Dr. Bian, and Vice President Zhang. Zhang Zhiheng introduced. Dr. Bian, this is Dr. Zhou Changchen from our hospital. He is a famous doctor in our hospital and the attending physician of the two patients. Just now, in order to save the patients, he was unable to attend your lecture. Zhou Changchen regretted. This is a huge loss for me. Bian Sanson smiled and said, saving lives is the most important thing. How is the patient now? Not optimistic. Zhou Changchen hurriedly took out the medical records and handed them to Bian Sanson. Bian Sanson took a quick look and frowned. Zhou Changchen asked, Dr. Bian, what do you think of the patient's condition? Bian Sanson's face was full of solemnity. Very serious. There is a risk of death at any time. Even if I take action, the hope of saving is no more than 20%. Zhou Changchen was stunned. He went on to say, if there is a 20% chance, it would be pretty good. We have no hope at all now. Bian Sanson sighed. Alas. If my master were here, there might be a 90% chance. Unfortunately, the patient can't hold on for so long. Zhou Changchen and Zhang Zhiheng were startled and became more curious about Bian Sanson's master. Let's go save people. Bian Sanson said. Immediately, the three of them hurried to the operating room. When the three of them turned out of the corridor and walked towards the operating room, Su Chen and others suddenly appeared in Bian Sanson's sight. Looking at Su Chen's familiar back, Bian Sanson was startled. He quickly asked, who are those people? Zhou Changchen quickly explained. Drive Bian, they are the patient's family and his friends. One of them is a young man, a miracle doctor invited by the patient's family, and he is very arrogant. He also said that Dr. Bian has no way to treat the patient's condition, and only he can cure it. Zhang Zhiheng glared at him and said, where did these ignorant lunatics come from? Such a young man must have studied in medical school for a few days, and don't even know his last name. Zhou Changchen nodded. He thought so too. However, when Bian Sanson heard the word young man, his eyes suddenly lit up. He hurriedly walked towards the door of the operating room. Hey, Dr. Bian, why are you walking so fast? Wait for us. Zhang Zhiheng and Zhou Changchen quickly trotted and caught up with Bian Sanson. The three of them walked to the door of the operating room. Su Chen turned around and looked at Bian Sanson with a smile. Bian Sanson was about to say hello. Behind him, Zhang Zhiheng said first, I heard that someone just said that only he could cure the patient. Who said that? Su Chen smiled. Zhang Zheheng shouted, arrogant and ignorant. Now, Dr. Bian, who is one of the top 10 doctors on the saint hand list, will teach you a lesson and let you know what medical skills are. Don't think you are so powerful just because you learn some superficial medical skills. After saying this, Han Qiufeng looked nervous. He was really afraid that Bian Sanson would have a problem with him because of Su Chen's words. However, Bian Sanson's reaction was beyond his imagination. Bian Sanson looked confused. Seeing that Zhang Zheheng was still chattering, he quickly turned around and covered Zhang Zheheng's mouth. Damn it. Don't talk nonsense, you're hurting me. Zhang Zheheng was almost suffocated to death. Zhang Zheheng broke away from Bian Sanson and asked confusedly, Old Bian, what's wrong with you? Zhang Zheheng and Zhou Changchen were both puzzled. Bian Sanson was too lazy to explain to them. He walked directly in front of Su Chen and bowed deeply. Disciple greets master. In an instant, everyone was dumbfounded. This divine Dr. Bian actually called Su Chen master. Han Qiufeng turned his head to look at Su Chen, his eyes a little dull. No wonder Su Chen didn't go to greet Bian Sanson just now. How can a master greet his apprentice? Zhang Zheheng's expression was stunned. He pointed at Su Chen and asked in a trembling voice, Divine Dr. Bian, he is your master? Bian Sanson nodded, with a matter-of-fact look on his face. The plum blossom needle formation I mentioned in the lecture just now was taught to me by my master. Also, since my master said that I can't cure these 2 patients, then I definitely can't cure them. Fortunately, my master is here, so these 2 patients will definitely survive. Looking at Bian Sanson's proud look, everyone felt that the picture was a little wrong. Zhang Zheheng suddenly thought of something. Just now, Bian Sanson said, my master is in his prime, and he will definitely live longer than you. He finally understood what he meant. Bian Sanson also said that, if grass grew on his grave, his master was still alive and well. Looking at Su Chen's young appearance, he might even have a 3rd child, if a tree grew on his grave. Zhang Zheheng smiled bitterly. Zhou Changchen was even more stunned. This young man turned out to be a miracle doctor. Moreover, he was the master of Bian Sanson, a miracle doctor on the saint hand list. Wang Shen and Wang Jinliang looked at each other again, with horror in their eyes. It turned out that Su Chen was not arrogant at all, but really had amazing medical skills. Bian Sanson hurriedly said, okay, since my master is here, let him go to save the patient. Zhou Changchen was stunned for a moment, then bowed quickly. This miracle doctor, please help. He looked embarrassed. He was scolding Su Chen just now, but now he wanted to ask someone to treat him. Han Qiufeng also said anxiously, Mr. Su, please save my dad and my grandfather. Don't worry, I said, they will be fine, as long as I'm here. Su Chen smiled and walked towards the operating room. Bian Sanson and Zhou Changchen hurried to follow. Zhang Zheheng thought about it and followed into the operating room. He also wanted to see how powerful Bian Sanson's master was. Su Chen did not disappoint them. The pulse setting and bone setting hand, the 18 ghost gate hands, the 9 extremes life-changing needle, the plum blossom needle formation, all kinds of lost medical skills were reproduced one by one in Su Chen's hands. Zhou Changchen and Zhang Zheheng were fascinated by it. Finally, Su Chen gave Han Daoking and Han Qian pills. However, this pill had limited effect. It was just used by Su Chen to cover up the longevity. Not long after, Han Qian and Han Daoking's bodies recovered quickly. The patient's body recovered. My god, all the data indicators are close to normal people. This is too fast. Is this a medical skill? This is a fairy art. Several doctors were shocked. After Su Chen finished the most important process, he stepped aside and let other doctors finish. At this time, Zhang Zheheng stepped forward. His eyes were full of passion as he stared at Su Chen. Here comes the 4th update. Good night everyone. Chapter 509. Something happened to the Han family. Zhang Zheheng walked towards Su Chen with a flattering smile on his face. He asked, Dr. Su, I wonder what medicine you just gave the patient? Su Chen looked at him and understood. This guy is really smart. Seeing Han Qian and Han Daoking's amazing recovery speed, he set his eyes on his medicine. However, Zhang Zheheng didn't know that those pills were just a trick, and the real effect was the longevity energy. Su Chen smiled and said, I only got a few of those pills by chance. Besides, this medicine can't be mass produced at all, because several spiritual medicines are needed in the materials. Hearing this, Zhang Zhen was immediately desperate. No wonder the effect is so good. It turns out that spiritual medicines are needed to refine it. It seems that it is impossible to use it as the hospital's trump card. Zhang Zhen couldn't hide his disappointment. Then, he looked at Su Chen again. Dr. Su, I heard that you are from Dongzhou province. Can I hire you to be the chief expert of our hospital? You can ask for any salary or conditions. Su Chen smiled. Forget it. I'm used to being lazy. Zhang Zhen invited again and again, but Su Chen still refused, so he had to give up. At this time, Zhou Changchen came over. He looked at Su Chen and said with embarrassment, Mr. Su, I apologize to you. I'm blinded by my own eyes. Please forgive me. Your medical skills are indeed superb, and I'm just looking at the world from a narrow perspective. Su Chen smiled. No need to be like this. You are also very good. Medical skills have a process of improvement, but not all doctors have a kind heart. You have this kind heart, and you will definitely become a great doctor in the future. As he spoke, Su Chen patted Zhou Changchen on the shoulder. A stream of longevity energy was injected into Zhou Changchen's body. Suddenly, Zhou Changchen's fatigue and old illness were swept away. He instantly felt his mind clear and his body light. Zhou Changchen was surprised, although he didn't know what Su Chen had done. But he quickly bowed to Su Chen and said, Thank you, Mr. Su. Su Chen smiled. He still had a very good impression of Zhou Changchen. At this time, Bian Sanson came over. He first gave Su Chen a thumbs up. Master, this is not the first time I've seen you use so many ancient medical techniques. But I still feel very shocked. I'm more and more sure that you will definitely be the first when the Saint Hand list is re-ranked in the future. Su Chen smiled. This kind of ranking is meaningless. Master, you are indifferent to fame and fortune, so you don't think it's meaningful. But some doctors are obsessed with fame and fortune, and regard this thing as more important than life. Just like Lu Daokan, he is so excited every day, just because he is at the end of the Saint Hand list, that he doesn't even know his last name. Bian Sanson complained. Su Chen was speechless. So, you feel uncomfortable if you don't belittle him, right? Bian Sanson smiled and said, It is indeed a feeling. By the way, why did you suddenly come back? Su Chen asked. Bian Sanson said, It's just a coincidence. I accepted a lecture here. Besides, I also wanted to meet you. Su Chen looked Bian Sanson up and down and said suspiciously, Didn't you just meet with me? Why do you want to see me again? Are you up to something? Bian Sanson chuckled. Master, don't always suspect that I have other motives. I'm just a little busy and need your help. Su Chen rolled his eyes. Did you encounter another difficult patient? Bian Sanson gave Su Chen a thumbs up again. Master, you are really ingenious and have a plan for everything. You spur your horse and whip, but the whip is too far to reach. Su Chen was confused. What a mess. Tell me, what's the patient's condition? Bian Sanson hesitated and said, Master, you can judge the patient's condition yourself when you treat him. I don't know when you will be free to treat the patient. Su Chen shook his head and said, Anyway, I don't have time to leave the provincial capital recently. In the provincial capital, he had offended the White Dragon King, the Zhou family, and the Rang family. This time when he came to the provincial capital, he offended the Dan group, Jinglin Villa, and the Wumeng. It can be said that there are a lot of troubles. Moreover, Jiang Yuan, who targeted Yao Shan, has not been caught by the Yao family. The Han family is facing an imminent crisis of extermination. And Tan Yangshan and Sun Zhaoxian have not dealt with their tails. The most important thing is that Zhou Wanqiu will come to the provincial capital soon. If he runs away again when she comes to the provincial capital, it is estimated that. Thinking about this, Su Chen felt a little annoyed. Bian Sanson hurriedly said, It's okay, master, as long as you agree. When you are free, contact me. I can pick you up at any time. Su Chen nodded, which was considered an agreement. In the operating room, the Han father and son were basically fine, and Su Chen stepped out. Han Qiufeng saw Su Chen and immediately trotted up. Mr. Su, my father and grandfather, how are they now? Han Qiufeng looked anxious. Before Su Chen could speak, Bian Sansin spoke first. With my master here, there will be no problem at all. The physical indicators of both of them have basically returned to normal. Except for being a little weak, it will probably be possible to get out of bed soon. Han Qiufeng burst into tears of joy. Bang! He knelt directly on the ground and kowtowed to Su Chen. Mr. Su, thank you. In the future, my family will definitely play a longevity card for you. Kowtow 3 times in the morning and evening, and burn incense every morning and evening. Su Chen hurriedly said, forget it. I can't bear it. Go and see the patient quickly. Yeah. Han Qiufeng nodded, and then ran to the operating room. At this time, the door of the operating room opened, and the doctor and the nurse pushed the two out. Dad, Grandpa. Han Qiufeng shouted immediately and ran over. Looking at the relatives on the 2 beds, he cried while shouting. Han Daoking was in his prime, so he recovered faster than Han Qian. Hearing Han Qiufeng's shouting, his eyes slowly opened. Xiaofeng. Han Daoking's voice was hoarse. Han Qiufeng immediately rushed to his father's bedside. Dad, it's me. Han Daoking looked a little anxious. Why are you back? Go. The Bei family attacked the Zhou family. It's dangerous. Han Qiufeng hurriedly said, Dad, I know. Bei Zinke also wanted to attack me, but it was Mr. Su Chen who saved me. Mr. Su Chen is very powerful. He beat Bei Zinke up. Moreover, he forced Bei Zinlei to pay our family 1.4 billion. Han Daoking was stunned. He quickly turned his head and looked at Su Chen. Su Chen stepped forward and said lightly, hello, Mr. Han. Han Daoking said excitedly, Mr. Su, are you the Mr. Su Chen who saved the head of the Han family? Su Chen nodded. Suddenly, Han Daoking became more excited. Mr. Su, please, save the Han family. The White Dragon King has already attacked the Han family. All the people in the Han family's main family are controlled by the White Dragon King. They have embezzled most of the Han family's assets. Please save the Han family. Su Chen said in a deep voice. Don't worry. I'll go to the Han family right away. Yes. Please. Han Daoking's eyes were red. Then, the doctor and the nurse pushed the 2 patients away. Han Qiufeng said, Mr. Su, are we going to the Han family's old house now? Su Chen nodded. Yes. Okay. I'll drive you there now. Han Qiufeng said. Su Chen asked, there may be a fierce battle later, aren't you worried? Han Qiufeng smiled and said, with Mr. Su here, I'm not afraid. Now, Han Qiufeng has become Su Chen's fanboy. In his eyes, Su Chen is simply omnipotent. Su Chen smiled. Okay, let's go now. Chapter 510, The Ecstasy. Su Chen and Han Qiufeng were about to leave the hospital and head to Han's house. Mr. Wang, it's urgent, so I won't take you back. Su Chen turned around and said to Wang Shen and Wang Jinayang. Wang Shen said quickly, Mr. Su, you are too polite. Just do your thing. After thinking for a while, Wang Shen clasped his fists and said politely, Mr. Su, I should apologize to you. Just now you said you could treat it, and I thought you were arrogant, but I didn't expect. Su Chen smiled. It's okay, I'm used to it. Wang Shen asked, Mr. Su, I have a distant relative who has some health problems. Can I ask you to? Su Chen looked at Wang Shen with a smile. Wang Shen said quickly, Mr. Su, as long as you are willing to treat it, I will do it, if you need me in the future. Su Chen got a satisfactory answer. He nodded. Wait until I have time. Wang Shen was overjoyed. Then, Su Chen said goodbye and left. Wang Shen looked at Su Chen's back and smiled. At this time, Wang Jinayang asked, Dad, are you going to let Mr. Su Chen treat Mr. Meng? Wang Shen nodded. But your promise just now is basically selling yourself to Su Chen. Is it worth it? Wang Jinayang asked. Wang Shen smiled. Su Chen has spared my life twice. Whether he treats Mr. Meng or not, I should let him do whatever he wants. If he can cure Mr. Meng, our family will make more money. At this point, Wang Shen laughed. Besides, Mr. Su will be more confident in me in the future after helping me this time. Wang Jinayang was a little confused. He didn't quite understand why Su Chen would be more confident after helping him once. Wang Shen smiled and explained, if I hadn't mentioned Mr. Meng, although I would have helped Mr. Su might have concerns. Concerns? Wang Jinliang looked puzzled. What are you worried about? Wang Shen smiled and said, I'm worried that I only chose to listen to his orders because he spared me twice. He's also worried that I might be dissatisfied with him. But after asking him to help me this time, I'll have more reasons to help Mr. Su, and Mr. Su will be more confident in me. The more you owe, the closer the relationship. Wang Jinliang understood a little, but didn't think too clearly. These interpersonal incidents are much more difficult than martial arts training. Compared with my father, I'm like a fool. Ha ha ha. Wang Shen laughed. Silly son, just practice your sword well. Let me, your father, take charge of the matter of standing in line. Yeah. Wang Jinliang nodded. Wang Shen looked into the distance and murmured, Mr. Su, you shouldn't let me down. On the other side, Su Chen got into Han Qiufeng's car, and the two drove quickly towards the Han family's main house. Soon, the two arrived. After parking the car outside, the two walked towards the Han family manor. Su Chen looked up and frowned slightly, because, at this moment, the Han family manor was shrouded in a faint mist. A faint spiritual pressure permeated the air. Enchantment array? Su Chen's face darkened. Something really happened to the Han family. The two walked quickly to the gate of the manor. Suddenly, two fierce shouts came. Who are you? What are you doing in my Han family? Whoosh, whoosh. 8 figures suddenly rushed out and blocked Su Chen and the others. The two leading them were both about 60 years old, one fat and one thin. The two of them were full of vitality and were both in the Xianshan realm. The other 6 were all masters of Zhou Wanqiu. Su Chen looked at them coldly. Among them, the fat Xianshan master stepped forward. He shouted, Who are you? What are you doing in my Han family? Get out of here. Han Qiufeng hurriedly clasped his hands and said, Sir, why haven't I seen you in the Han family before? Are you a new worshipper? I'm Han Qiufeng from the Han family's side branch. You can go in and report. The fat master's face changed slightly. He hurriedly urged, What Han Qiufeng and Han Danfeng? I have never heard of them. Now, the Han family has important things to do. You guys hurry up and leave. I'm really a member of the Han family. Han Qiufeng wanted to explain. At this time, Su Chen grabbed Han Qiufeng and said coldly, Don't explain to him. This guy's not a worshipper of the Han family at all. Han Qiufeng was stunned for a moment. At this time, the fat master's face changed drastically. He stared at Su Chen and said angrily, Boy, don't talk nonsense to me, or I will kill you. Get out. Su Chen said coldly, You should be a worshipper of the Bei family, right? Then, Su Chen pointed at the jade pendants worn by several people and said, The jade pendants on you should be able to block the effect of the maze, right? Immediately, the 8 people's faces changed drastically. Boy, who are you? The fat master stared at Su Chen. Su Chen smiled and raised his eyebrows and said, I'm the ancestor of the White Dragon King. The fat master's face changed drastically. He shouted angrily, Dare to insult Master Bei, you are looking for death. As he spoke, he rushed straight towards Su Chen. Aren't you a member of the Han family? Why are you angry when I scolded the White Dragon King? Aren't you pretending anymore? Su Chen smiled coldly. As the fat master raised his hand, the terrifying vitality poured towards Su Chen. Su Chen raised his hand casually and struck out with a palm. Bang! The fat master only felt that Su Chen's vitality was like a raging sea. In an instant, he could not resist and was directly blown away. Puff! The fat master fell to the ground, spitting blood, and his breath was weak. The thin master and the 6 Zhou Wanqiu masters were stunned for a moment. Together, the thin master shouted. Several people rushed up together. Su Chen's figure flashed like a swimming fish. The left hand was the flame energy, and the right hand was the black thunder energy. Bang, bang, bang. With every punch, a master of black energy flew out. He fell to the ground and died. Seeing Su Chen so fierce, the thin master's face changed wildly. He turned around and ran. However, boom. The sound of wind and thunder sounded behind him. Su Chen was behind him in the blink of an eye and struck out with a palm, and the 9 extremes energy instantly increased by 3 times. Bang! The thin master was hit directly into the ground by a palm and died. On the side, the fat master sat on the ground, his face full of disbelief. Su Chen walked towards him slowly. The fat master trembled and kept backing away. Su Chen walked up to him and said in a cold voice, "Come on. Tell me, what did you do to the Han family?" The fat master's body was like a sieve. I don't know. Crack. Su Chen stepped down and the fat master's leg bone broke directly. "Ah!" he screamed. I said, it was the White Dragon King. He asked us to guard outside the Han family and not let others enter the Han family. He also found someone to set up a formation that can confuse all the Han family members. In the past few days, the White Dragon King arranged a lot of people to enter the Han family. Some moved things, some signed documents, and it seemed that they were transferring companies and property. Han Qiufeng's face changed drastically. Has the Han family been emptied now? The fat master nodded. It should be like this. Anyway, the things that are visible are basically gone. Now, the Han family should be an empty shell. Originally, we were about to withdraw, but we just happened to see you coming. The fat master's face was full of regret. If Su Chen and the others want to come, just let them come. Why should I meddle in other people's business? The fat master regretted more and more. However, Su Chen did not give him another chance to regret. He simply raised his hand and dealt with him. Han Qiufeng's face was full of shock. He looked at Su Chen and said at a loss, "Mr. Su, what should we do now?" Su Chen said in a deep voice, "Don't worry, let's go and see if anyone is okay. As long as no one is okay, money and assets are trivial matters." Yes. Han Qiufeng nodded. Then, Su Chen and the other person walked into the Han family manor. Looking around, there was a dead silence. Occasionally, the servants who should be there also fainted on the ground. "Mr. Su, what happened to them?" Han Qiufeng asked. Su Chen said in a deep voice, "Have you felt that you have felt groggy since you entered this manor?" Han Qiufeng nodded repeatedly. Yes. Su Chen said, "This is a maze. Please move aside first. I will break the maze." Next chapter, within 10 minutes. Chapter 511. Something big happened. Han Qiufeng quickly stepped aside. Su Chen sat cross-legged on the spot, releasing his Yun spirit. Soon, he had detected the center of the formation and the location of the formation flags. Su Chen pinched his fingers and chanted a spell, quickly forming seals with both hands. Finally, he bit his index finger and drew a talisman on the palm of his hand. He raised his hand and then pressed it hard on the ground. "Break. Break. Break." Su Chen shouted. The next second, the whole earth seemed to shake violently. Then, it returned to calm. Suddenly, dozens of formation flags flew towards Su Chen from all directions. Su Chen raised his hand and took them all. "The bewilderment formation has been broken," Su Chen said lightly. Han Qiufeng hurriedly looked around. Suddenly, the Han family manor, which was originally a little blurry, slowly became clear. The stagnant air began to flow again. A cool breeze blew, and the drowsiness in his head slowly receded. "Mr. Su, this is amazing," Han Qiufeng said in shock. Su Chen put away the formation flag and nodded. "Let's go to the hall first." Soon, the two ran to the Han family's meeting room. The head of the family, Han Qiufeng, was surprised and shouted. Su Chen looked over and saw a group of Han family members in the meeting room. Han Daozheng and Han Kiwi were both here. However, these people had dull eyes and trance, as if they were in a dream. "Mr. Su, what happened to them?" Su Chen said. "These people were affected by the soul confusing formation. If I'm not mistaken, the White Dragon King asked someone to set up this formation, and then took advantage of the head of the Han family and others losing their minds, to send people to the Han family, to move assets and sign contracts. Now, I'm afraid the other party has succeeded." Han Qiufeng's face was shocked. "What should we do now?" Su Chen said. "Let's wake these people up first." As he spoke, Su Chen took out a book. It was the spiritual seal he got from Lu Qianli. After getting this secret book from Sun Zheoxian's villa, Su Chen has not practiced seriously. But in the current situation of the Han family, the effect of using the Zhenling seal will be faster. Su Chen simply flipped through it. Then, he put away the book. With his eyes slightly closed, Su Chen formed seals with his hands. In an instant, a huge amount of mental power surged out from the Niwen Palace, forming a mental force field around Su Chen. "Expand." Su Chen controlled the mental force field and instantly expanded it to the entire Han family manor. Shock. Su Chen shouted in a low voice. Suddenly, in the huge mental force field, mental power was separated and stimulated the sea of consciousness of everyone in the manor. Su Chen slowly put away the mental force field. It was the first time to use the Zenling seal, and it felt really good. The size of the mental force field can be controlled. Moreover, the stimulation to the people in the mental force field can also be controlled. This time, the stimulation Su Chen gave everyone was just enough to wake them up, but it would not hurt their spirits. HMM. Huh. Everyone slowly opened their eyes. A series of awakening sounds rang out instantly. The entire Han family manor seemed to be awakened. Ah. Why am I here? What happened to me? Han Qiufeng? Why are you here? Who is this person? Why is he in our Han family meeting room? One after another, exclamations came from the crowd. In the hall, someone also saw Su Chen and Han Qiufeng and asked hurriedly. Han Qiufeng was about to explain. At this time, Han Qiwei and Han Daozheng just woke up. Han Qiwei looked at Su Chen and was immediately surprised. Mr. Su, why are you in my Han family? Why didn't you tell me in advance? As he spoke, Han Qiwei introduced to everyone in the Han family. Everyone, this is Mr. Su Chen who saved Daozheng and me in Yicheng. All the Han family members were immediately respectful and thanked him one after another. However, Su Chen had a strange look on his face. He looked at Han Qiwei. Mr. Han, you really don't remember what happened? Han Qiwei was confused and didn't know what Su Chen meant. Han Daozheng interrupted and said, I seem to have a dream. I dreamed of signing a lot of documents. Me too. I also dreamed that I gave my company away. I dreamed that I transferred all the money in my account to others. Everyone immediately spoke at once. Su Chen said in a deep voice, that was not a dream. You really did these things. As soon as this was said, everyone was stunned. Then, they hurriedly checked their accounts and companies. Not long after, a wailing sounded. What happened? The money in my account is gone. My company was also sold by me for 100 yuan. All my assets and shares were transferred to others by me. Han Daozheng's face was even paler. Han Qiwei asked hurriedly, Daozheng, what happened? Han Daozheng looked miserable, and he trembled. Dad, our Han family has been emptied out. All the cash has been transferred away. All the assets have been sold at a low price. The shares have also been transferred to a shell company. Now, the entire Han family is just an empty shell. Everyone's face suddenly became miserable. Han Qiwei looked at Su Chen. His face was miserable, and he asked, please help me, Mr. Su. What happened? Han Daozheng also looked anxious. Yes. Mr. Su, who is the one who emptied our Han family? Everyone in the Han family stared at Su Chen closely. Su Chen slowly uttered 3 words. White Dragon King. Everyone's face was shocked. Then, Su Chen told the whole story. From Han Qiufeng's family being forced, to Han Qiufeng asking for help, and finally to visiting the Han family. Finally, Su Chen asked the Han family to move the bodies of the 2 Grand Masters and 6 Zuanjin Masters into the hall. At this time, everyone finally accepted this reality. Asshole, White Dragon King. Our Han family didn't provoke him. That's right. Before, when the head of the family and the old head of the family got into trouble in Yicheng, it was this bastard who asked Long Heian to take action. This bastard has been eyeing us for a long time. What should we do now? Our Han family is finished. Everyone was in a panic. Some people with poor mental quality even started crying. Suddenly, bang, a sound of slapping the table was heard. Han Qiwei glared and said, enough. What's the point of crying? If the money is gone, we can earn it again. At least, all of us in the Han family are still alive. Han Qiwei's prestige is very high. As soon as he spoke, everyone stopped talking. Su Chen said, in fact, the White Dragon King's domineering behavior has already violated the bottom line. I will help the Han family contact the Tiger Guards and try to let them handle it. Everyone was overjoyed. Han Daozheng was also pleasantly surprised and said, if there are tiger catching guards to help us, we may be able to recover some of the losses. Then I'll trouble you, Mr. Su. Everyone in the Han family bowed to Su Chen and thanked him. Su Chen took out his mobile phone and called Pei Zhenchang. Soon, Pei Zhenshang's surprised voice came. Mr. Su, is there any work again? Su Chen said, yes, there is work. 2 Yuan Qi masters, 6 Zhuanjin masters. Pei Zhenshang smiled and said, Mr. Su, you are too efficient. Where are you now? I'll go there right away. Su Chen said in a deep voice, don't worry, I have another thing to tell you. Pei Zhenshang was stunned. You go. Then, Su Chen told him what happened in the Han family. Pei Zhenshang was stunned on the spot. Hey, team leader Pei. Su Chen called. Pei Zhenshang suddenly came back to his senses from his daze, and he hurriedly said, Mr. Su, this matter is of great importance. I must report it to Captain Qin and let her make the decision. Su Chen nodded. Okay. Then I'll be at Han's house, waiting for you to come over. Hey. Okay. Pei Zhenshang hung up the phone, and hurried to Qin Qingmu's office. Now, something big has happened. The next chapter will be around 2 o'clock. Let's go to bed first. Chapter 512. Is the Divine Realm invincible? Provincial capital. At the foot of the mountain. In an extremely luxurious manner. An old man was sitting on a recliner. This man had white hair and beard, and he looked quite immortal. The old man had a white beard on his upper jaw, hanging down from both sides, like a dragon's beard. This man was the head of the Bei family, the White Dragon King. Da-da-da. A burst of hurried footsteps came. Dad. Bei Xinluo's steps were anxious, and he kept shouting. On the recliner, the White Dragon King frowned slightly. Why are you so flustered? You don't look calm at all. The White Dragon King didn't even open his eyes and shouted angrily. Bei Xinluo lowered his head quickly. Dad, I was wrong. The main thing is, I have something urgent to report to you. I met that kid Su Chen. Suddenly, the White Dragon King opened his eyes, and a flash of cold light flashed in an instant. He saw the wound on Bei Xinluo's face and asked, your face? That bastard beat you? Bei Xinluo gritted his teeth. I just said something harsh to him before I left, and he slapped me in the face. Bei Lanwang snorted coldly, how stupid. You obviously have nothing to rely on, but you insist on showing off your verbal skills. If you don't get beaten, who will? A trace of embarrassment flashed across Bei Xinluo's face. Dad, not only did that bastard beat me, but he also beat your grandson crossing K and duping. He also killed Grandmaster Wang and Grandmaster Zhao, and extorted 1.4 billion from me. This little bastard is determined to go against us. Bei Xinluo cursed angrily. Bei Lanwang frowned and said, what exactly happened? Immediately, Bei Xinluo told the whole process again. Bang. Bei Lanwang slapped the recliner with his palm. This little bastard. I've been busy cleaning up the Han family these past 2 days, so I didn't pay any attention to him. Does he think that my Bei family is afraid of him? Humph. It just so happens that the Han family has been dealt with, and now I have time to kill this stinky bug. Bei Xinluo asked hurriedly, Dad, what are you going to do? Bei Lanwang said coldly, go and call Taoist Qiu. Yes. Bei Xinluo left hurriedly. Not long after, he came back again. Behind him, there was an old man in Taoist robes. Master Bei. The old man in Taoist robes bowed to Bei Lanwang. Bei Lanwang asked, Taoist Qiu, the Han family should be almost done. You can remove your maze. Okay. Taoist Qiu nodded. Just as he was about to leave, his face suddenly changed. Oh no. My maze has been broken. Bei Xinluo said hurriedly, it must be that Su Chen. He and Han Qiufeng went to the Han family. Su Chen? Taoist Qiu was stunned. Is it the one who made a big fuss in Yicheng? Bei Xinluo nodded. Humph. This bastard actually dared to come to the provincial capital. Watch me kill him. Taoist Qiu said angrily. White Dragon King waved his hand. Master Qiu, don't do it for now. You are good at Yicheng attacks. It's not appropriate now. The night is your home ground. Taoist Qiu sneered and said, Master Bei, don't worry. In the past 2 days, my spiritual cultivation has made further progress. Hearing this, White Dragon King was overjoyed. Good. Very good. He clapped his hands and praised. Then I can't let you take risks. You go and have a good rest first, and get familiar with your mental power. As for Su Chen, I will arrange for Shen Yuanling to go. He is good at speed and assassination. After killing Su Chen, you can let him hide for a while. to avoid the Dragon Slayer guards from causing trouble. Taoist Qiu nodded. That's fine. Shen Yuanling is known as the Shadow Chaser Killer, and he is best at killing with one blow. Besides, after he kills Su Chen, it is more suitable for him to hide from the Dragon Slayer guards than me. The White Dragon King turned his head and looked at Bai Xinlei. You go and notify Shen Yuanling to go to the Han family to kill Su Chen. After the kill, let him hide in Villa number 3 for a while. Bai Xinlei was excited. Okay, Dad. Shen Yuanling is not a semi-god, but has already stepped into the land immortal and is good at hiding his tracks and assassination. If he attacks Su Chen will definitely die. Bai Xinlei laughed happily. The White Dragon King closed his eyes slightly and murmured, this little bug has been jumping around for so long, it should have been killed long ago. Before, none of my subordinates were in the god realm, but now, Han's villa. Pei Zhenchang and others quickly drove to the Han family. In addition to the members of the Shen Hao group of the Tiger Guard, King Mui also came. Everyone in the Han family was overjoyed. The reputation of the captain of the Tiger Guard Special Operations Team is very loud. They didn't expect that Su Chen could invite King Mui. In fact, Su Chen was also a little surprised. Pei Zhenchang and others collected the bodies of the Grandmaster and the Zhuanqiu master killed by Su Chen and prepared to go back to verify their identities. Looking at the injuries on these people, Pei Zhenchang was shocked. All of them were killed with one blow. And it can be seen that Su Chen's attack power is much stronger than before. Pei Zhenchang was secretly shocked. King Mui looked at these scars and was also surprised. Su Chen's attack power seemed to be different every day, and he improved rapidly. What she didn't know was that this was entirely due to Su Chen's deeper understanding of the 9 extremes. Han Qiwei looked at King Mui and asked, Captain Qin, how do you think we should solve this kind of thing that happened in our Han family? King Mui frowned slightly. This kind of thing happened to a big force in the provincial capital. It has already crossed the bottom line. However, the Tiger Capture Guard is not the Dragon Slayer Guard. We can't just take action when we have doubts. Even if you report it, we have to collect evidence here, and we will attack the White Dragon King after all the evidence is collected. Han Qiwei nodded. It is rare that the Tiger Capture Guard is willing to intervene in this matter. After all, the other party is the Bai family, the first family in the provincial capital. Su Chen felt troubled in his heart, but it was hard to say anything. After all, this is how official agencies are. King Mui glanced at Su Chen and said, I know you feel troubled. However, if you don't have ironclad evidence, it will be easy for the White Dragon King to blame you. The White Dragon King also has a big background. If he really starts to cause trouble, our Tiger Catching Guard will be in a passive position. Su Chen nodded. Okay, I understand. King Mui glanced at Su Chen and knew that he didn't agree with her. At this time, Su Chen suddenly frowned. He turned his head suddenly and looked at a shadow outside the door. Who is it? Get out. As soon as the voice fell, Su Chen raised his hand and hit him with a palm of flame energy. However, the flame energy suddenly extinguished as soon as it flew there. What a sharp perception. Are you Su Chen? A figure in a black robe suddenly appeared. This person was the Shadow Chaser Killer Shen Yuanling. This guy who suddenly appeared scared everyone in the Han family and the Tiger Catching Guard. King Mui's face changed slightly and glanced at Su Chen. This guy in black robe was so well hidden that even a powerful god like her didn't notice him. How did Su Chen find him? Su Chen said coldly, you were sent by the White Dragon King, right? No. I just don't like you. Shen Yuanling denied it. With the Tiger Capture Guards here, he couldn't leave any evidence. King Mui raised her eyebrows. How dare you? You dare to come here when I'm here? Don't you take me, the Tiger Capture Guards, seriously? Haha. Shen Yuanling sneered. If your guard chief or deputy guard chief were here, I might have some concerns. You, King Mui, are seriously injured. I'm afraid you're not even as good as the demigod realm. I advise you to mind your own business. Otherwise, if you die here, it will cause trouble for me. Su Chen looked at Shen Yuanling coldly. This guy probably doesn't know that King Mui has recovered her cultivation. Shen Yuanling looked at Su Chen and said coldly, boy, have you thought about how to die? Su Chen smiled coldly, you are the one who should think about this question. You are really arrogant. Shen Yuanling's face changed. Then go and die. As soon as the voice fell, Shen Yuanling's figure flashed. In the blink of an eye, his body had left the trail of after images and rushed directly in front of Su Chen. Qin Kingmu's face changed drastically. This is a real strong man in the god realm. Su Chen, get out of the way. She raised her hand and hit Shen Yuanling with a palm. However, Shen Yuanling didn't care about Qin Kingmu's punch at all. In his opinion, the injured Qin Kingmu was at most a half god realm and posed no threat. Shen Yuanling raised his fist and hit Su Chen's head hard. The violent fist wind was like a black hole, tearing everything around it. It seemed that in the next second, Su Chen would be swallowed up. At this time, Su Chen suddenly laughed. Do you think that the god realm is invincible? The 4th update is here. Good night everyone. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 513, Glazed Heart Purifying Grass. Do you think that being in the god realm will make you invincible? Su Chen sneered. Then, he threw a punch. He hit Shen Yuanling's fist. The violent energy in Su Chen's body, after the vibration of the 9 extremes, became wildly more powerful. Bang! The two fists collided fiercely. Boom! Huge invisible ripples suddenly spread out in all directions. The people around were instantly blown away. Whether they were ordinary people or members of the Tiger Guards, they were all the same. The only ones who were not affected were Su Chen, Shen Yuanling, and Qin Kingmu. The two fists collided. Shen Yuanling's face changed drastically. He suddenly discovered that Su Chen's strength was far beyond that of ordinary demigods. Even compared to him, he was not much behind. Ah! Shen Yuanling roared, and all his strength burst out. Su Chen gritted his teeth. The black thunder energy in his body was wildly vibrating and transforming along the route of the 9 extremes. A trace of electric arcs appeared on Su Chen's body. The terrifying amplitude of power brought great pressure to Su Chen's body and spirit. However, Su Chen's Niwen Palace was suppressed by the Yin God. His body was protected by the unbeatable golden body, and the longevity energy was repairing it. Therefore, Su Chen could use the 9 extremes without any scruples. Bang! Shen Yuanling's figure shook, and Su Chen just took a step back. A smile hung on Su Chen's face. Now, he has become more and more confident. It is indeed unlikely that the newly promoted god realm will kill him. And Shen Yuanling on the opposite side was horrified. Is this still the Xianshan realm? However, before Shen Yuanling was shocked, Qin Kingmu had already hit him with the palm. Shen Yuanling had no time to dodge and could only take Qin Kingmu's blow. Bang! The next second, the terrifying energy burst out. Shen Yuanling's face changed. Puff! He spit out a mouthful of blood and his body was directly knocked out. Boom! A wall was directly smashed into pieces by Shen Yuanling. The next second, Shen Yuanling climbed up from the ruins. His face was pale, and he looked at Qin Kingmu and shouted angrily, "Asshole! Qin Kingmu, you cheated me. Have you recovered from your injury?" Qin Kingmu looked at Shen Yuanling with a mocking smile. "Even if my injury is not healed, can you kill Su Chen?" Shen Yuanling's face was extremely ugly. Just now, when he fought with Su Chen, he didn't gain any advantage. Even if Qin Kingmu was not there, he might not be able to take down Su Chen. Shen Yuanling was shocked and angry. Su Chen was only in the Xianshan realm. How could his attack power reach the level of the divine realm? Shen Yuanling was extremely annoyed. Thinking of Su Chen's age, a fear suddenly arose. Go. Shen Yuanling turned around and ran without saying a word. Su Chen was about to chase, but Qin Kingmu stretched out her hand to stop him. Forget it. Qin Kingmu said, he has already stepped into the god realm, so he should have some ability to save his life. Although you have an attack power comparable to that of the god realm, you are not in the god realm after all. If you fall into his trap, it will be dangerous. Su Chen curled his lips. He is just a guy who has just stepped into the god realm. He can't kill me. Hearing this, the corners of Qin Kingmu's mouth twitched wildly. Is this a human language? It's just a mere god realm. You are just an innate realm, okay? King Mui felt that Su Chen had been a little too arrogant recently. She was so young, but she was already in the god realm, and it seemed that she was not as arrogant as him. However, she thought about it. If she could fight against the god realm in the innate realm, she would probably be more arrogant than Su Chen. King Mui sighed. She thought she was quite a genius, but compared to Su Chen, it seemed that she was just average. At this time, Su Chen had turned around and walked towards Han Kiwi and others. Everyone in the Han family looked at Su Chen in shock. They also understood what happened just now. The one who came to kill Su Chen was a powerful god. In the end, he didn't get any advantage from Su Chen. The horror of Su Chen's martial arts cultivation can be imagined. Mr. Han, I'm really sorry for making a mess of your house. Su Chen looked around and apologized. Half of the wall of the meeting room collapsed. The inside of the house was even more messy. Han Kiwi smiled and said, Mr. Su, aren't you slapping our Han family in the face by saying this? You are here to help our Han family. We can't thank you enough. At this point, Han Kiwi turned around and shouted, son, come here. Han Daozheng hurriedly trotted over. Didn't we just take a picture of a spiritual medicine a few days ago? Go and see if it's still there. If it wasn't taken away by those bastards, bring it to Mr. Su. Han Daozheng hurried out. After a while, he ran back again and handed Han Kiwi a wooden box. Han Kiwi showed a look of relief on his face. Fortunately, this thing was not put together with other valuables, so it escaped a disaster. Mr. Su, this is for you. Han Kiwi handed it to Su Chen with both hands. Su Chen evaded. Mr. Han, there is no need to do this. The Han family is in need of money now. Han Kiwi waved his hand and said, don't worry. Although our Han family was emptied by the White Dragon King, we still have some private collections, so we are not unable to survive. It is better to give this magical medicine to you, Mr. Su, so that it will be more useful. Our Han family is still counting on you and Captain Qin of the Tiger Guard to help us get justice. Seeing that he was so persistent, Su Chen said nothing more. Taking the wooden box, Su Chen opened it casually. I saw a longleaf grass that looked like transparent appeared in front of him. Glass pure heart grass. Su Chen's face suddenly showed surprise. Glazed pure heart grass, also known as sudden enlightenment grass. According to legend, it is the mythical enlightenment tea that drifted into the mortal world and degenerated into glazed pure heart grass. After taking this kind of spiritual medicine, the user's mind will be clear for a short time. In this state, any practice will be in a state of enlightenment and mastered quickly. Looking at this glass pure heart grass, Su Chen thought of the 9 extremes and the Zenling seal. Su Chen had just obtained these 2 skills and had not yet fully mastered them. Especially the 9 extremes. Su Chen had only practiced to the 2nd level and had not yet broken through the 3rd level, and the strength increase was less than 5 times. Even so, Su Chen could already fight with the strong in the god realm. But if Su Chen used the glass pure heart grass to practice the 9 extremes to the 5th level, the strength could be increased by 9 times. By then, Su Chen would have the confidence to kill the god realm. At this time, King Mui also noticed the spiritual medicine in Su Chen's hand. Wow. It's the enlightenment grass. King Mui said with some envy. Su Chen, you are so lucky. Su Chen smiled. This is not good luck, it's my good character. Hearing this, King Mui rolled her eyes at him. Arrogant. Su Chen was too lazy to pay attention to her. He turned around and bowed to Han Kiwi, saying, thank you, Mr. Han. This spiritual medicine is indeed very important to me. I won't be polite to Mr. Han. Han Kiwi waved his hand and said, Mr. Su, you have done a great favor to my Han family. This is our thanks to you. Su Chen nodded and said in a deep voice, don't worry, leave the Han family assets that the White Dragon King has robbed to me. I will make him return them as he ate them. If the Tiger Guard can't solve it, I will do it myself. Su Chen made a promise to Han Kiwi. King Mui glanced at Su Chen and was very annoyed. What do you mean that the Tiger Guard can't solve it? You do it yourself. Han Kiwi was very excited. He bowed repeatedly and said, thank you, Mr. Su. Mr. Han, I will not delay you from cleaning up the house. You go ahead, I'll go back first. Su Chen said goodbye. He couldn't wait to try the effect of this glazed pure hard grass. If it really allowed him to break through to the 5th level of the 9 extremes, Su Chen would dare to step on the Bei family directly. Even if the Bei family has a powerful master in the divine realm, Su Chen is confident that he can escape unscathed, even if he does not win. Chapter 514. Another killer appears. Bei family manor. Bei Lanwang was still lying on the recliner, resting his eyes. On the side, Bei Xinlei was walking back and forth anxiously. Why haven't you come back yet? Why are you so slow? Bei Xinlei kept muttering. Bei Lanwang frowned slightly. Why are you so anxious? Although Shen Yuanling has just broken through, he is already a real land immortal. How can he have any problem dealing with Su Chen? He is always irritable and not calm at all. What a joke. Bei Xinlei's neck shrank. That Su Chen is really a bit weird. I'm always worried about accidents. Haha. What accidents can happen? Bei Lanwang sneered. All worries and fears come from insufficient strength. But when Shen Yuanling took action, Su Chen had no hope of escaping. If he wants to survive, the sun will rise from the west. As soon as Bei Lanwang finished speaking, suddenly, puff, the sound of an object falling was heard. The father and son were startled and turned their heads to look. Then, a disheveled figure stood up from the foot of the wall. The man was covered in blood and dust, looking very miserable. It was obvious that this man had just fallen from the wall. Who is it? Bei Lanwang glared, and a murderous intent flashed in his eyes. It seemed that he would strike with thunder in the next second. At this time, the man hurriedly shouted, "Yes, it's me, Shen Yuanling." Hearing this voice, Bei Lanwang and Bei Xinlei were stunned for a moment. The two hurriedly ran over and helped Shen Yuanling over. Seeing Shen Yuanling's miserable appearance, both of them were shocked. "Mr. Shen, didn't you go to kill Su Chen? How did you end up like this?" Bei Xinlei was puzzled. Shen Yuanling was embarrassed. "Ahem. I went to the Han family to kill Su Chen, but I happened to meet King Mui there." The White Dragon King's eyes flashed. King Mui, the captain of the special operations team of the Tiger Guard? Although that woman has entered the divine realm, isn't she seriously injured? Shen Yuanling nodded. "I thought so too, so I didn't take her seriously. As a result, I was injured by her sneak attack. I didn't even have time to kill Su Chen." Shen Yuanling was embarrassed to say that he had attacked Su Chen, but it didn't work at all. Bang! The White Dragon King slapped the tree next to him. Boom! A valuable viewing tree exploded instantly. "This bitch, how dare she delay my business? She is really looking for death." The White Dragon King gritted his teeth. Then, the White Dragon King turned to Shen Yuanling and said, "Mr. Shen, you have just stepped into the divine realm. It is normal that you are not a match for King Mui, not to mention that she attacked by surprise. Don't mind, go get a healing elixir, and then go to recuperate. As for Su Chen, I have other arrangements." Shen Yuanling felt relieved. Fortunately, the White Dragon King did not continue to arrange for him to deal with Su Chen. "Thank you, Master Bei." Shen Yuanling bowed and turned to leave. After he left, a trace of hatred appeared on the face of the White Dragon King. "What a waste." Bei Xinlei said anxiously. That Su Chen survived. What should we do?" The White Dragon King said in a deep voice. "It doesn't matter. Shen Yuanling can't do it. We have other candidates. Go and call Taoist Qiu." Bei Xinlei turned around and left. Soon, he came back with Taoist Qiu. "Master Bei, do you want me to kill that Su Chen?" Taoist Qiu asked. The White Dragon King nodded. "Mr. Shen took action, but it happened that King Mui was investigating at the Han family, so he was injured. Are you sure? If not, I will ask my eldest brother to take action." Taoist Qiu smiled. "This Shen Yuanling is too careless. If I had gone before, with my Yin Shen sensitive perception, I would definitely know that King Mui's injury has recovered. Don't worry. Now, my vitality has been cultivated to the peak of the innate. Although I have no hope of becoming a martial god, my Yin Shen has been completely perfected and transformed into a spiritual god. Su Chen will die tonight." The White Dragon King's face was happy. There are those who focus on vitality and those who focus on mental power in martial arts cultivation. Generally speaking, if the mental power is average, relying on vitality alone to break through the peak of the innate and reach the divine realm, they can be called martial gods. If a martial arts cultivator focuses on mental power, perhaps the vitality cultivation will be stuck in the innate realm and cannot break through. But they can rely on mental power to cultivate, condense Yin Shen and Yang Shen, and then use Yin Shen and Yang Shen to break through the divine realm and transform into spiritual gods, and they are called immortal masters. In a word, if you rely on your vitality to break through the realm of God, you will be a martial god. If you rely on your spiritual power to break through the realm of God, you will be an immortal master. Martial god, immortal master, together they are the land immortal. However, the spiritual god of this Taoist Qiu only has the yin god, but not the yang god, so this kind of immortal master is still a little weak. The most powerful one is Su Chen's. The vitality must break through to become a martial god, and the spiritual power must condense the yin god in the yang god, and then transform into a spiritual god after the yin and yang stage is completely completed. By then, Su Chen will be both a martial god and an immortal master, plus a strong body. This is the perfect land immortal. The White Dragon King didn't know much about Su Chen, but in his opinion, Su Chen only reached the peak of the innate level with his vitality, and the practice method he practiced was quite powerful. He was able to escape Shen Yuanling's assassination because he was lucky and had Qin King Mui by his side. However, if Taoist Qiu's spiritual god personally took action, Su Chen would definitely die. Okay, then I'll leave this matter to Taoist Qiu. The White Dragon King bowed his hands. Taoist priest Qiu nodded and went back to his residence to make preparations. On the other side, Su Chen didn't know that the White Dragon King had arranged a backup plan for him. He was now thinking about how to improve his 9 extremes through the glazed pure hard grass. At this moment, ding-ling-ling, a phone rang. Su Chen looked down and saw that it was a call from Tan Xiang. He answered the phone. On the other side, Tan Xiang's weak voice came. "Mr. Su, have you eaten?" Su Chen was stunned. "Not yet." Tan Xiang said happily. "Then come to our place to eat. We are now in Mr. Sun Zhaoxian's villa. My father and I are here, as well as Mr. Sun and Mrs. Sun. Mrs. Sun especially wants to thank you." Su Chen immediately understood. Tan Yangshan is now going to protect Sun Zhaoxian, and Tan Xiang should also go over to get familiar with him. They met for the first time, and it was a good opportunity to have a meal together. As for Mrs. Sun, who wanted to thank him, she should be Sun Zhaoxian's wife, the woman who was favored by the senior management of Jinglin Villa. Hearing Su Chen's hesitation, Tan Xiang begged, "Mr. Su, please come over. Madam Sun and I want to thank you." Su Chen thought about it and finally agreed. "Okay, I'll go right over." He had his own calculations in mind. To maximize the effect of Liu Li Jinxing grass, it also needs the cooperation of some other medicinal herbs. Su Chen can go to Sun Zhaoxian and ask him to help him find it, saving him from running errands. After refining the elixir, Su Chen's practice, after taking the medicine and the subsequent effect test, also need a quiet and undisturbed place. It's really not convenient in the hotel. It's better to stay in Sun Zhaoxian's villa. After making up his mind, Su Chen first sent a message to Sun Zhaoxian, asking him to send someone to help him buy medicinal herbs and prepare the room. Then, Su Chen rushed to Sun Zhaoxian's house. When Su Chen arrived, Sun Zhaoxian's house was already full of tables. There were 4 people at the table, Tan Yangshan and his daughter, as well as Sun Zhaoxian and his wife Zhu Qinglian. Zhu Qinglian is fair-skinned and beautiful, with smooth and fair skin and a plump and round figure. It is indeed suitable for people with special hobbies. Su Chen suddenly understood why the top management of Jinglin Villa did not care about Sun Zhaoxian's face at all, and wanted to take action against Zhu Qinglian. "Mr. Su." When everyone saw Su Chen, they hurriedly stood up and greeted him. The next chapter will be soon. Chapter 515 Crazy Promotion. Sun Zhaoxian's villa had been cleaned up everywhere. It was no longer in a damaged state. Su Chen smiled and greeted everyone. Sun Zhaoxian's wife Zhu Qinglian was surprised to see Su Chen so young. However, Sun Zhaoxian had already greeted her, so she quickly accepted. Zhu Qinglian stepped forward and thanked him. "Mr. Su, my name is Zhu Qinglian. Thank you for your help in saving our family." As she spoke, Su Qinglian bowed respectfully. Su Chen said politely, "Mrs. Sun is too polite." At this time, Sun Zhaoxian also joked, "Mr. Su, the beautiful girl Zhao Tan is still very respectful. I invited you to dinner before, but you didn't stay." On the side, Tan Xiang blushed. She said shyly, "Uncle Sun, what are you talking about?" Su Chen smiled and said, "I was afraid that you would keep me and let me clean your house, so I quickly slipped away." Everyone laughed. The 5 people sat down again. Whether it was Sun Zhaoxian and his wife or Tan Yangshan, they kept toasting Su Chen. Su Chen was not polite either, and he was not afraid of the coming. Everyone drank happily, and the atmosphere was very lively. Su Chen asked, "Mr. Sun, Jingland Villa has not come to trouble you again, right?" Sun Zhaoxian bowed to Su Chen and said, "Mr. Su, I forgot to tell you that the bastard Jiang Xinsheng came. However, he was dumbfounded when he saw Lu Qianli's body. You didn't see how wonderful his expression was. Moreover, after I mentioned your name, he asked Dan Group and Wu Meng about your record. He was so scared that he didn't even dare to say a harsh word and ran away with his tail between his legs." On the side, Su Qinglian was also full of gratitude. She raised a glass of wine and toasted, "Thank you, Mr. Su, otherwise the 2 of us would have to leave the provincial capital." Su Chen drank it all in one gulp. Tan Yangshan said, "I've also heard of this guy Lu Qianli. He seems to have a very powerful killer move, which has killed 2 innate masters. Mr. Su, you are really amazing for being able to kill him." Su Chen smiled. Lu Qianli's Zenling seal, when dealing with martial arts practitioners who have insufficient spiritual power training, can indeed have miraculous effects when suddenly attacked. But for masters like Su Chen who have even cultivated the Yin God, it can only be a meal. Soon, everyone finished their meal in laughter. At this time, Sun Zhaoxian's men also brought the medicinal materials that Su Chen needed. "Mr. Su, the room you need is here." Sun Zhaoxian led Su Chen to the 3rd floor. A room had been cleaned up here, and the alchemy equipment that Su Chen needed had also been set up. Su Chen nodded. It was indeed much less troublesome to have someone like Sun Zhaoxian to help him deal with chores. "Mr. Su, if you need anything, just call me." Sun Zhaoxian bowed to Su Chen and turned to leave. Su Chen laid out the glazed heart purifying grass and other herbs and cleaned them. Then, Su Chen sat cross-legged to purify his mind and nourish his spirit. When his state reached its peak again, he stood up again. Then, he began to refine the enlightenment pill according to the method of refining the enlightenment pill in the ancient pill book. Not long after, a burst of fragrance wafted out. Just by smelling it, a feeling of clear mind instantly spread throughout the body. Su Chen's face was happy. A crystal clear pill appeared in his hand. "Is this the enlightenment pill? It seems that I have refined it quite successfully." Su Chen smiled. He did not eat it directly. Su Chen first took out the 2 books 9 Extreme Power and Spiritual Seal. He read them carefully and memorized all the details in his mind. Then, he raised his head and swallowed the pill into his stomach. The enlightenment pill melted in his mouth. In an instant, it decomposed into a cool power and spread towards Su Chen's brain and limbs. The next moment, Su Chen felt that his head suddenly became cool and his thoughts were extremely active. Moreover, even his body senses became more sensitive. Su Chen did not waste time and directly began to comprehend the 9 extremes. So far, the most obvious improvement in Su Chen's strength is the 9 extremes. Therefore, Su Chen naturally has to focus on comprehending this technique. Suddenly, the mysteries of the 9 extremes were constantly deduced in Su Chen's mind. The vitality in Su Chen's body also kept running and trying along this route. His understanding of the 9 extremes evolved from the 2nd level to the 3rd level, the 4th level, and all the way to the highest 5th level. The amplification multiples of the 9 extremes also slowly increased from 3 times to 5 times, 7 times, and up to the highest 9 times. Su Chen felt neither happy nor sad. After thoroughly mastering the 9 extremes, Su Chen took the time to comprehend the spiritual seal. This technique is also very powerful in the use of mental power. Lu Qianli had never practiced spiritual power, but he was still able to use this move to shock 2 innate masters at the same time and then achieve a counterattack. This shows the power of this move. In particular, the soul shock seal has many other wonderful uses, which Liu Qianli did not use at all. Soon, Su Chen's understanding of the soul shock seal became deeper and deeper. A spiritual force field permeated Su Chen's body. After Su Chen completely mastered the soul shock seal, a wonderful idea suddenly appeared in his mind. Since the power of Yuan Qi can be increased through the 9 extremes, can the spiritual power be the same? Su Chen's face showed a hint of excitement. If the spiritual power can also be increased, then he will be rich now. While the enlightenment pill is still effective, Su Chen quickly deduced and tried this possibility. In the hall of the villa, Tan Yangshan and his daughter sat with Sun Zhaoxian and his wife to drink tea and chat. No wonder Mr. Su is so powerful. It turns out that he practices so hard. Sun Zhaoxian exclaimed. You are wrong. Tan Yangshan shook his head and said, Mr. Su is so powerful because he is Mr. Su, not because he works hard. If it were someone else, even if he worked harder than Mr. Su, he would never achieve Mr. Su's achievements. On the path of martial arts practice, the horror of genius is really overwhelming compared to ordinary martial arts practitioners. Anyone who is an enemy of such a person will probably be in fear for the rest of his life, because in the blink of an eye, he may leave you far behind. Sun Zhaoxian smiled. Fortunately, I made friends with Mr. Su Chen in advance. Tan Yangshan blinked and said, me too. The two of them laughed out loud. On the side, Zhu Qinglian took Tan Xiang's hand and asked, Zhaoying, does Mr. Su have a girlfriend? Tan Xiang said, it seems not. I haven't heard him mention it. Then why don't you work hard? Zhu Qinglian smiled. Tan Xiang was startled and asked, what are you trying to do? Zhu Qinglian smiled and said, try to win Mr. Su. Mr. Su is such an excellent man. You may never meet another one in your life. If you miss it now, you will regret it in the future. Swish. Tan Xiang's face suddenly turned red like a big apple. I am not worthy of Mr. Su. Tan Xiang whispered. Zhu Qinglian smiled and said, look at your uncle Sun. He looks like a bear. Can he be worthy of me? At the beginning, I didn't like him at all. But he chased me shamelessly, and in the end, didn't I fall into his trap and fall into his hands? So, it doesn't matter whether you are worthy or not. What matters is whether you dare to think about it and whether you dare to do it. Hearing this, Tan Xiang's face became even redder. When everyone saw Tan Xiang's appearance, they laughed out loud. Even Tan Yangshan didn't say anything. Although he is a daughter slave, he would be very happy if his daughter could get married with Su Chen. When everyone was laughing, suddenly, a sound of footsteps sounded outside the door. Who is it? Tan Yangshan's face changed, and he looked outside. Excuse me, is Su Chen here? Then, a figure in a Taoist robe appeared in front of everyone. It was Taoist Qiu. Everyone stood up. Tan Yangshan took the lead and stood in front of everyone. He stared at Taoist Qiu and asked cautiously, what do you want to do with Mr. Su? Taoist Qiu smiled coldly, borrow something from him. Borrow what? Tan Yangshan asked. Taoist Qiu sneered, borrow his head for a while. The next chapter will be after 1:30. Let's go to bed first. Chapter 516 Taoist Priest Qiu is coming. Borrow Su Chen's head. Suddenly, the faces of Tan Yangshan and others changed. Are you here to cause trouble? Tan Yangshan's face was serious. Taoist Qiu said coldly, Su Chen killed my fellow disciples. How can I not kill him? Tan Yangshan said coldly, Mr. Su has always done things in an upright manner. If he kills someone, he must be someone who deserves to die. How dare you? Taoist Qiu's eyes were cold. He looked up. His sharp eyes seemed to penetrate 2 floors and saw Su Chen on the 3rd floor. Taoist Qiu retracted his gaze and sneered. Su Chen is on the 3rd floor, right? As he spoke, he walked away. Tan Yangshan flashed and blocked Taoist Qiu in front of him. You can't go. When he was eating before, he heard Su Chen mentioned that Su Chen wanted to refine pills and assist in cultivation and didn't want to be disturbed. Therefore, Tan Yangshan prepared to hold this person back. Taoist Qiu looked at Tan Yangshan coldly. You are Tan Yangshan, right? I've heard of you. You have some methods of transforming and moving your energy. But you are not my opponent. Don't make trouble for yourself. Tan Yangshan's eyes were firm. You can't go. Looking for death. Taoist Qiu shouted coldly, then raised his hand and punched out. Boom. The surging vitality suddenly hit out and flooded towards Tan Yangshan. Taoist Qiu was just better at mental power and used it to enter the divine realm. But it does not mean that his vitality cultivation is weak. His vitality cultivation is already at the peak level of the late Xianshan realm. The terrifying vitality, like a turbulent wave, pressed towards Tan Yangshan. Tan Yangshan's face changed. The vitality cultivation of the man in front of him was very terrifying. He quickly turned his body strength around, his body twisted and trembled, and took the opponent's move. Taoist Qiu's terrifying strength slowly dissipated under Tan Yangshan's dissolution. Sure enough, there is something. As soon as the voice fell, Taoist Qiu rushed up directly. Punch after punch came at Tan Yangshan. Tan Yangshan looked cautious, and he stepped on the gang step, as steady as a mountain. Although it was very hard to receive each punch, he was able to barely resolve it. Bang, 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 punch after punch. The floor tiles under Tan Yangshan's feet kept collapsing like popping beans. Sun Zhaoxing, Su Qingdian and Tan Xiang had already hurriedly hidden outside. After a fierce attack without any effect, Taoist Qiu jumped back directly. Tan Yangshan breathed a sigh of relief. Taoist Qiu was very strong, and he almost couldn't resist him. However, if this person was only this strong, he would not be Mr. Su Chen's opponent. Taoist Qiu looked at Tan Yangshan coldly. Old man, you are really good. But I'm just playing with you. It's time to show you the gap between us. As the voice fell, a floating figure floated directly from Taoist Qiu's Niwen Palace. Looking at the appearance, it is exactly the same as Taoist Qiu himself. Tan Yangshan's face changed, and he screamed in surprise, Yin God. No, it's Ling Shen. Are you in the realm of God? Taoist Qiu smiled coldly, and pulled it casually. God-eating knife. A long knife condensed by spiritual power instantly appeared in the hands of the spiritual god. The spiritual god raised his hand and struck, slashing down. Tan Yangshan raised his hand, and the surging vitality gathered, trying to resist the knife. However, the spiritual long knife was like nothing, and it went straight through, and chopped Tan Yangshan. Bang! In an instant, Tan Yangshan was struck by lightning, and blood flowed from all 7 orifices. He held his head, and screamed in pain. Taoist Qiu stepped forward, and struck with a palm. Tan Yangshan was directly knocked out. You dare to block my way, you don't know what's good for you. Taoist Qiu sneered. He took back the spiritual god, and ignored Tan Yangshan, but walked towards the 3rd floor. Soon, he arrived at the door of Su Chen's room. With his spiritual power extended, Taoist Qiu instantly understood what Su Chen was doing. A trace of jealousy flashed in his eyes. It's actually the enlightenment pill. Where did this bastard get his luck? Where did he get the glazed pure heart grass? The next second, Taoist Qiu kicked the door hard. Bang! The wooden door instantly broke into pieces and flew everywhere. However, when the pieces flew to Su Chen, they fell down instantly. Swish! Su Chen opened his eyes, and a hint of annoyance appeared in his eyes. Just now, he had some inspiration and direction for the combination of mental power and Jiujijin, but he was interrupted. Su Chen stared at Taoist Qiu. You'd better give me a reasonable explanation. Taoist Qiu smiled coldly. My explanation is that you should be on your way and don't have an epiphany here. Su Chen's eyes were cold. You know I'm having an epiphany and you still interrupt me? Are you sent by the White Dragon King? Taoist Qiu said. Yes. Anyway, you are going to die, so there is no harm in telling you. Su Chen said coldly. Then you can die. As soon as the voice fell, Su Chen punched out. The terrifying vitality gushed out instantly. After being amplified by the 9 extremes, it broke through the limit of the Xianshan realm in the blink of an eye. 2 times, 3 times, 5 times, 7 times, 9 times. Boom. Taoist Qiu's face changed drastically, and the terrifying mental power burst out from the Niwen Palace, combining with the vitality. With the help of powerful mental power, Taoist Qiu's figure was like a ghost, dodging Su Chen's fatal blow. Boom. A big hole appeared on the wall instantly. Taoist Qiu flashed outside and stared at Su Chen in shock. How is it possible? Why is your attack far beyond the Xiantian realm? Su Chen said coldly, you beasts like you who can break people's enlightenment can cultivate powerful mental power. What is impossible in this world? Taoist Qiu's face was ugly. Asshole. You dare to humiliate me by relying on your special skills. You are looking for death. As soon as the voice fell, he raised his hand. A mental arrow condensed in the void, and he waved his hand. The arrow flew quickly and rushed towards Su Chen through the air. In the blink of an eye, it was about to shoot through Su Chen. A smug smile appeared on Taoist Qiu's face. At this moment, an illusory arm stretched out from Su Chen's brow and directly grabbed the spiritual arrow. A little force. Snap. The spiritual arrow instantly turned into a disintegrating spiritual force. Only this little spiritual force is concentrated on this spiritual arrow. Who are you looking down on? Su Chen said coldly. The next second, his Yin Shen stepped out of the Niwen Palace. Taoist Qiu widened his eyes. You actually condensed the Yin Shen? Moreover, it is a Yin Shen that has already been fully developed. A touch of envy and jealousy flashed in Taoist Qiu's eyes. When he had the Yin Shen, he was already in his 50s. It took more than 10 years of hard practice to condense the Yin Shen to full development. As a result, Su Chen was only in his early 20s, but he had achieved what he had achieved in half his life. This made Taoist Qiu's jealousy boil. He grinned and sneered. Your cultivation of vital energy is so high, your technique is also unique, and you can cultivate the Yin spirit through spiritual power cultivation. No wonder you can give the White Dragon King such a headache. However, what I like most is to kill a genius like you. Spirit out. The voice fell. A figure suddenly stepped out from between Taoist Qiu's eyebrows. It was his own spiritual spirit. Compared with Su Chen's Yin spirit, Taoist Qiu's spiritual spirit was much more condensed, and it did not have that cold Yin Qi. Merge. Taoist Qiu's voice fell, and the spiritual spirit merged with the body. Soul devouring sword. Suddenly, a black long sword condensed by spiritual power appeared in his hand in an instant. The next second, Taoist Qiu's figure flashed, rushed in front of Su Chen, and chopped fiercely with a knife. Su Chen frowned slightly. This knife seemed to be tangible, but in fact it was nothing. If you use your vital energy or your body to resist, it will be useless at all, because this knife targets spiritual power. Su Chen instantly retracted the Yin spirit into his body. He stretched out his hand, and a spiritual spear condensed in an instant. Su Chen raised his hand, and the spear blocked it. Bang! The sword and the spear collided. Invisible and silent sound waves spread out. The next second, cracks appeared on the spiritual spear. A sharp pain came from the Niwen Palace. Su Chen frowned slightly. For a cultivator who mainly cultivates spiritual power, after reaching the divine realm, the Yin God transforms into the spirit god, which is indeed much stronger than the simple Yin God. Seeing this, Taoist Qiu laughed wildly and said, boy, the Yin God is just a Yin God. Compared with the spiritual god of nerves, it is too illusory. Originally, you also had the opportunity to borrow the Yin God and step into the divine realm. But if you offend me, you will never have this opportunity. As the voice fell, Taoist Qiu continued to rush forward. The spiritual long knife in his hand chopped down fiercely. Chapter 4 is here. Good night everyone. Chapter 517. Challenging the power of the divine realm. Su Chen took the spiritual spear and went straight up to meet him. Bang! A silent and invisible wave spread out again. Crack. The spiritual spear in Su Chen's hand instantly broke. A sharp stinging pain broke out in Su Chen's mind. His eyes went dark, and a warm current flowed down his mouth and nose. Su Chen wiped it with his hand. It was bright red blood. Su Chen frowned slightly. Although his spiritual cultivation was already very good, however, it was still a little worse than that of Taoist Master Qiu who entered the divine realm with spiritual power. Boy, you have already achieved the Yin God, but you did not choose to step into the divine realm. Are you thinking of condensing the Yang God and entering the divine realm again? You have a big ambition, but you don't have this opportunity. Ha ha ha. Taoist Master Qiu smiled wildly. As soon as he finished speaking, he took the spiritual long sword again and stepped forward, slashing at Su Chen fiercely. Su Chen's face changed slightly. The spiritual spear in his hand suddenly condensed into shape again. He took the black spiritual longsword in his hand, stepped forward, and collided fiercely with the longsword. Every time they hit each other, Su Chen felt a sharp pain in his head, and the Niwen palace was also shaking violently. Even the yin spirit showed some signs of collapse. Taoist Qiu was even more proud, and he struck one knife after another, without mercy, and Su Chen kept using the spirit spear to resist. The spirit spear kept collapsing, then condensing, and then collapsing again. Su Chen resisted and retreated at the same time. However, in his mind, he was frantically thinking about countermeasures. Taoist Qiu's spirit was indeed much stronger than his yin spirit. Relying solely on the yin spirit could only delay his failure. If he persisted to the end, the result would most likely be that his yin spirit collapsed and his Niwen palace was broken by a knife. Now, the only way is. Su Chen stared at Taoist Qiu's constantly attacking figure with a hint of determination in his eyes. Suddenly, he turned and left. Taoist Qiu sneered, "Where are you running?" The combination of mental power and vitality allowed him to catch up with Su Chen in an instant. Taoist Qiu raised his long knife high and then chopped it down fiercely. At this moment, Su Chen, who seemed to be running away in front, suddenly turned around. His hand quickly formed a strange mark. 9 Extreme Shocking Spirit Seal. Su Chen's spiritual power instantly surged out. A highly compressed and condensed spiritual force field was formed around his body. This force field suddenly enveloped Taoist Qiu who was chasing him. Taoist Qiu's face changed slightly. "What is this?" Before he could react, Su Chen's hand seal changed and he shouted, "Shock!" In an instant, the terrifying spiritual force field instantly burst out with amazing power. Taoist Qiu was instantly overwhelmed by the violent spiritual power. Although Su Chen, who had taken the enlightenment pill before, was interrupted by Taoist Qiu when he was thinking about how to combine spiritual power with the 9 extremes, he had already gained something. The power of the shocking spirit seal may not be increased by 9 times, but it can be doubled. With the help of this amplified shocking spirit seal, Su Chen instantly shocked Taoist Qiu into a trance. Between masters, every bit is the difference between life and death. In an instant, the Zhuanli Yuan Qi in Su Chen's body suddenly condensed, and the 9 extremes power was instantly released. The violent force hit Taoist Qiu fiercely. Although Taoist Qiu's mental power has entered the divine realm, however, his physical body and Yuan Qi are ordinary. Puff. Facing Su Chen's violent attack, Taoist Qiu vomited a mouthful of blood. Then, the whole person collapsed and flew out. He fell hard to the ground, and then held the wall to stand up. Puff. Taoist Qiu's legs softened, and he almost fell again. He looked at Su Chen with horror. "Impossible. How can your mental power hurt me?" Su Chen sneered. "Go to the underworld, and ask the king of hell." Taoist Qiu was immediately panicked. At this moment, he regretted that he should not come in person. If he only sent a spirit god, he might be able to kill Su Chen directly. Even if he couldn't kill him, he could escape quickly. Escape. Taoist Qiu had only this thought in his mind. He forced himself to be strong. The spiritual power of the spirit and the vitality combined to burst out amazing potential. In an instant, he had already escaped. "Can you get away?" Su Chen sneered. The next second, a golden light suddenly burst out from under Su Chen's feet. The golden light spread across the ground. In the blink of an eye, Su Chen's figure disappeared in an instant. Taoist Qiu, who was madly fleeing, turned his head hurriedly and saw a golden light crashing towards him. Bang! A terrifying force hit Taoist Qiu's chest fiercely. Puff! Taoist Qiu fell down fiercely in the air. Then, 7 strange forces exploded directly in his body. Bang, bang, bang. In an instant, Taoist Qiu's chest bulged violently and then exploded in an instant. His heart had exploded. Puff, puff. Taoist Qiu vomited blood wildly and his face was as pale as paper. You. Then, his head tilted and he lost his voice. Su Chen's figure fell. He wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth and a hint of excitement appeared on his face. This Taoist priest was the first innate god realm that he had killed. Although, this man died due to carelessness. But Su Chen finally had the strength to challenge the god realm. "White Dragon King, you wait for me." A trace of cruelty appeared in Su Chen's eyes. He stepped forward, picked up the body of Taoist Qiu, and then returned to Sun Zhaoxian's villa. As soon as he returned to the hall, Sun Zhaoxian was overjoyed. "Mr. Su, you are okay, that's great. Where is that bastard?" Su Chen pointed outside the door. "I was afraid that the body of this bastard would dirty your living room, so I threw it in the yard." Sun Zhaoxian was stunned. Then he said ecstatically, "Mr. Su, you killed that bastard? That's great. Just now, I heard from Mr. Tan Yangshan that the bastard was a land immortal. You can actually kill a land immortal?" Sun Zhaoxian's face was full of joy. Su Chen's ability to kill a land immortal means that he will have a backer at the level of a land immortal in the future. In the future, he can walk sideways in the provincial capital. The more Sun Zhaoxian thought about it, the more excited he became. "By the way, Mr. Su, please go and see Mr. Tan. Just now, he was beaten by that stinky Taoist priest in order to stop that bastard." Sun Zhaoxian suddenly said. Su Chen's face changed, and he hurried over. At this time, Tan Yangshan was lying on the sofa, his face covered with blood. He frowned and his face was full of pain. On the side, Su Qingdian and Tan Xiang were taking care of him. Tan Xiang's face was full of anxiety. Seeing Su Chen coming back, Tan Xiang hurried forward. "Mr. Su, please go and see my dad. Please, save my dad." Tan Xiang begged with red eyes. Su Chen hurried forward. "Don't worry, your dad will be fine with me here." As he spoke, Su Chen rushed to Tan Yangshan's side. After a careful inspection, Su Chen found that Tan Yangshan was injured in the sea of consciousness by the Taoist priest, and then his meridians were injured by a palm. Su Chen used the 9 extreme life-changing needle and the longevity key to quickly heal Tan Yangshan's meridian injuries. However, Su Chen had no medicine on hand for the injury to Tan Yangshan's spiritual sea of consciousness. He could only temporarily help Tan Yangshan stabilize his sea of consciousness to prevent him from collapsing and becoming an idiot. He raised his head, looked at Tan Xiang and said, "Your father's spiritual sea of consciousness injury requires spiritual medicine, but I don't have any here now." Tan Xiang panicked, tears streaming down her cheeks. "Then what should I do? My dad won't die, will he?" Su Chen said in a deep voice, "Don't worry, your father's injury has been stabilized by me. There won't be any major problems in a short time. I will get the spiritual medicine quickly to treat your father." Tan Xiang asked in a panic, "Mr. Su, where are you going to get this medicine?" Su Chen's eyes were cold. The Bei family in the provincial capital. Chapter 518. City people really know how to have fun. Seeing the murderous intent in Su Chen's eyes, Tan Xiang was shocked. "Mr. Su, the Bei family in the provincial capital is the leader of the 8 major families in the provincial capital, and there are many masters in it. If you go alone, it may be dangerous." Tan Xiang looked a little anxious. Su Chen said coldly, "Don't worry, I won't fight a battle that I'm not sure of. Even if I can't defeat the Bei family, it will be extremely difficult for them to keep me. Besides, this Bei family has provoked me several times. If I don't give them a little color, this White Dragon King might think that I'm afraid of him." After repelling Shen Yuanling and killing Taoist Qiu, Su Chen has a full understanding of his own strength. The general god realm can only repel him at most. If he wants to kill him, it will be extremely difficult. Moreover, more importantly, Su Chen's martial arts path is an all-round development, and there is almost no shortcoming that can be targeted. Overall, he only has the undefeated golden body, which is still a little weak. Although he can deal with the attacks of the innate realm, it may not be feasible when facing the land immortals. However, even so, Su Chen was not afraid of the Bei family. Su Chen's eyes swept over the body of Taoist Qiu outside the door. Then, he took out his mobile phone and made a call. Soon, the call was connected. Qin Qingmu's voice sounded. "Speak." Su Chen said lightly, "2 things. First, there is a body. I need you to come and claim it. Help me find out who it is." Qin Qingmu frowned slightly and said, "Su Chen, you are a little arrogant. Before, you always asked leading Guan and Pei Zhenchang to collect the body for you. Now you are bolder and dare to order me. Do you think I'm idle?" Qin Qingmu's tone was a little dissatisfied. At this time, Su Chen said lightly, "This time is different." "What's different?" Can I, a powerful god, collect the body for you? Qin King Mui said disdainfully. Su Chen curled his lips. The body collected this time is also a land immortal. Crash. Across the way, there was a sound of a teacup falling to the ground. Ahem. What? Qin King Mui said hurriedly. Su Chen, are you kidding me? Su Chen said calmly, if you don't want to come, ask Pei Zhenchang to come and see. Okay, I'll be there right away. Qin King Mui prepared to come in person. By the way, you said 2 things, what is the second thing? Qin King Mui asked. Su Chen said in a deep voice, this person was sent by the White Dragon King to kill me. Moreover, Tan Yangshan was injured in his spiritual sea of consciousness by him. I'm going to the Bei family to ask for an explanation. What? Qin King Mui screamed again. This incident shocked Qin King Mui no less than the previous incident. The Bei family is the first among the 8 major families, and Su Chen actually wants to go to their door alone. How audacious is this? You have to think about it. The Bei family has a master of the god realm. Qin King Mui reminded. Su Chen said calmly, isn't the one I killed also in the god realm? Qin King Mui was speechless for a moment. You are awesome. You are amazing. Su Chen said, don't worry about me. Even if I can't defeat the Bei family's gods, they can't keep me. Who's worried about you? Don't be so self-indulgent. Qin King Mui scolded. Su Chen smiled. Although the Bei family has land gods, but not every member of the Bei family is a land god. Hearing this, Qin King Mui suddenly felt a strong murderous aura. It seems that Su Chen is ready to kill. She couldn't help but mourn for the Bei family in advance. Okay. Then wait for me to find you, and we'll talk about it when we meet. Give me an address first. Su Chen sent the address of Sun Zheoxian's house to Qin King Mui. The two hung up the phone. After that, Su Chen checked Tan Yangshan's situation again. After making sure that he would be fine, Su Chen sat cross-legged and adjusted his state. There will definitely be a big battle when he goes to the Bei family later. If he is not in good condition, he may suffer. Su Chen thought, while recovering his state. Soon, a burst of hurried footsteps sounded outside Sun Zheoxian's villa. Qin King Mui brought Pei Zhenchang and the tiger-catching guards of the Shenhao group. Sun Zheoxian and others were shocked when they saw the tiger-catching guards and others, especially after knowing Qin King Mui's identity. Everyone was even more surprised. This person's identity is higher than the head of a city. After greeting Su Chen, several people hurried up to check the body of Taoist Qiu. After an inspection, the tiger-catching guards took a breath of cold air. Pei Zhenchang looked at Qin King Mui, swallowed his saliva and said, Captain Qin, this is Shadow Taoist Qiu Kangying. Moreover, he is indeed an immortal master. As he spoke, Pei Zhenchang turned his head to look at Su Chen. His heart was almost numb with shock. Su Chen's strength improvement is really unreasonable. Before, he only killed ordinary innate masters. Later, he began to be able to kill masters at the peak of the innate realm. Now, even masters of the divine realm have died in his hands. The key is that Su Chen is still just a Yuan Qi master. When he breaks through to the god realm in the future, he will probably be invincible in the god realm, right? Invincible in the same level. Able to fight against the god realm. These words suddenly appeared in Pei Zhenchang's mind. Qin King Mui nodded. She was no less shocked than Pei Zhenchang. Qin King Mui herself was in the god realm, and she knew best that the gap between the innate realm and the god realm was like a natural moat. However, Su Chen was able to defeat the god realm, which was simply against the sky. She walked to Su Chen and said in a deep voice, this Taoist priest is called Qiu Kangying. Before, when you were in Yicheng, the Taoist priest Yushan who was killed was his fellow disciple. Su Chen immediately understood. Yushan was a subordinate of Long Heian. At the beginning, he attacked Su Chen with the Yin God according to Long Heian's request, and was eventually killed by Su Chen using the relic. A strange light flashed in Qin King Mui's beautiful eyes. She stared at Su Chen and looked him up and down. Su Chen smiled faintly. Why? Are you interested in me? Hearing this, Qin King Mui raised her eyebrows and raised her hand to slap him. Su Chen quickly blocked it. Hiss. His body slid back a bit. However, he was not seriously injured. Qin King Mui's pretty face turned red, and she glared at him. You are talking nonsense. You deserve to be beaten. But, She continued with a smile. But, with your strength, you can indeed go to the Bei family to show off. Su Chen smiled. I'm very pleased to be recognized by the captain of the special operations team of the Tiger Guard. Su Chen smiled. Then I will go with confidence. Qin King Mui said, I will go with you. Su Chen was stunned. You will go with me? In your own name, or in the name of the Tiger Guard? Su Chen asked. Qin King Mui said in a deep voice, as long as I appear, I must represent the Tiger Guards. However, I'm not going there to help you fight, but to help you keep an eye on the Bei family's divine realm. In other words, I want to ensure that you don't die there. I will hide aside and not take action. If the Bei family's divine realm wants to kill you, I will appear again. Su Chen smiled and said, it's not that easy for the Bei family's divine realm to kill me. Qin King Mui shook her head. You don't understand. There are also huge differences in the divine realm. For example, Shenling Guan, although he has already stepped into the divine realm, he has only just entered the divine realm, and is even worse than me. But if it is some old ghosts who have entered the divine realm for many years, they must have all kinds of means. Su Chen nodded. He also knew that his current strength could only fight against some who had just entered the divine realm. Qin King Mui continued to introduce, this shadow Taoist Qiu Kangiying can be considered an immortal master, but he is only a yin god transformed into a spiritual god, so he is relatively weak. But if he cultivates yin god and yang god at the same time, and then transforms into a divine realm, you will definitely not be his opponent. Su Chen nodded in approval, then bowed and said, then I would like to thank Captain Qin for his kindness. Qin King Mui rolled his eyes at him. Just don't get angry with me in the future. Su Chen looked puzzled. When did he get angry with this woman? Su Chen greeted Sun Zhaoqian and others, then turned and left. Qin King Mui followed far behind. Su Chen turned around and asked, why are you following me so far? Qin King Mui rolled her eyes and said, brother, you and I are not the same kind of people, okay? I'm just a passerby, and I found that the Bei family had a divine realm attacking the innate realm. So I came to stop it. Su Chen looked stunned. Is the script starting from here? These city people really know how to play. Chapter 519, 1 against 20. Su Chen looked amused. He no longer cared about Qin King Mui, but rushed towards the Bei family at full speed. Why are you running so fast? What if I don't catch up, and I can only collect your body when I get to the Bei family? Qin King Mui looked at Su Chen's quickly disappearing back, and couldn't help complaining. She was just about to catch up with Su Chen. Suddenly, Qin King Mui thought of something. She took out her mobile phone and edited a message. The White Dragon King sent Qiu Kangiying to attack and kill Su Chen, but was killed by Su Chen. Now Su Chen is heading to the Bei family. Qin King Mui pressed send, and the message was sent. Then, she put away her mobile phone and rushed towards Su Chen. Bei's manor. In the hall, the White Dragon King sat in the main chair. Below him sat Bei Xinlei and others. Bei Lanwang frowned slightly. It's been a long time. Qiu Kangiying hasn't come back yet? Bei Xinlei bowed and said, Father, Taoist Qiu is going out in his real body this time, so we have no news yet. Hearing this, Bei Lanwang frowned slightly. Hasn't he already become a spiritual god? Why does he still go out in his real body? Maybe he wants to move after being still for a long time. Bei Xinlei smiled. Of course, he may also want to help you bring back Su Chen's body. If only the spiritual god is sent out, the body cannot be brought back. Bei Lanwang nodded. It is indeed possible. After all, everyone knows that he hates Su Chen. Bei Xinlei continued, Dad, don't worry too much. Taoist Qiu has become a spiritual god. Under the mental attack, even if Su Chen has become a yin god, he can't resist it. Hearing this, Bei Lanwang didn't say anything else, because he couldn't think of any possibility of Su Chen escaping. Bei Xinlei smiled and said, just wait patiently. It is estimated that after a while, Su Chen's head will be delivered to you. As soon as he finished speaking, the door of the hall suddenly opened. A black-clad bodyguard rushed into the hall in a hurry. Master, Su Chen, Su Chen. The bodyguard ran out of breath. Bei Xinlei immediately laughed and said, what did I say? Good news is coming. He stared at the black-clad man and said, take a breath first. Was it Su Chen's body that was brought back by Taoist Qiu? However, the bodyguard shook his head hurriedly. No, it was Su Chen. Su Chen came to kill him. In one sentence. Everyone was stunned for a moment. What? The White Dragon King stood up suddenly. The terrifying pressure made it difficult for the bodyguard to breathe, and he knelt down. He widened his eyes and stared at the bodyguard. This is impossible. The black-clad bodyguard prostrated himself on the ground. Really? Our 5 grandmasters and the master of Zhou Wanqiu have already stopped him. On the side, Bei Xinlei was stunned on the spot, and the White Dragon King was even more furious. Arsehole! Bang! As soon as he raised his hand, the bodyguard was blown away. The bodyguard spit out blood with an unbelievable look on his face and died on the spot. The 2 strands of white beard of the White Dragon King fluttered. He gritted his teeth and said angrily, how could this little beast escape Qiu Kangying's attack? How dare he come to my Bei family to seek death? Come with me to see. After saying that, the White Dragon King took the lead and rushed out, and Bei Xinlei and other members of the Bei family hurriedly followed. At the gate of the Bei family manor, several guards and ordinary bodyguards with obvious and hidden powers all fell to the ground, and Su Chen stood in front of the Bei family, looking at the tall gatehouse of the Bei family and the plaque of Bei Mansion with red background and gold characters. A cold light flashed in Su Chen's eyes. He raised his hand and suddenly shot out with terrifying energy. Boom. The entire gate of the Bei family collapsed. The plaque of the Bei Mansion was completely shattered. Su Chen clapped his hands. This is a bit of a trouble. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. The next second, figures came one after another through the air. Soon, more than 20 figures gathered in front of Su Chen. The 5 people standing in the front were all innate masters. Each of them was carrying a rolling yuan qi pressure. Behind the 5 masters, there stood more than a dozen people, all masters of Zhou Wanqiu. At the end, there were dozens of dark and bright Jin warriors. Su Chen's eyes flickered slightly. The Bei family was indeed very powerful. Compared with the Yao family and the Han family, it was much stronger. You bastard, you dare to destroy the Bei family, are you looking for death? One of the yuan qi masters stepped forward and scolded Su Chen. Su Chen sneered, let the White Dragon King come out to see me, otherwise you will be the ones looking for death. The yuan qi master said angrily, you bastard, are you worthy of seeing the head of the Bei family? As soon as the voice fell, he rushed forward. The figure flashed wildly, and in the blink of an eye, he was in front of Su Chen. Skyfire palm. He chopped down with a palm, with a terrifying flame. This was a master of fire attribute energy. However, Su Chen smiled coldly. Flame energy. Su Chen struck out with a palm. The terrifying energy, with purple flames, rushed towards the opponent. In an instant, the flame and the energy of the Bei family master was instantly extinguished. In front of Su Chen's purple flame, his fire energy was vulnerable. Su Chen's flame energy directly submerged him completely. Boom. The terrifying explosive power of the flame energy directly blew the Bei family master into a horrible state, and he fell to the ground, and was completely out of breath. Ah. Master Liu is dead. Impossible. Everyone took a step back. Su Chen's terrifying fighting power frightened everyone. Go and call out the White Dragon King. Otherwise, you can only die in vain. Everyone looked ugly. Another master stood up. He shouted, everyone, this bastard just took advantage of the fire attribute energy, so he sneak attacked and killed Master Liu. Let's attack together and kill this beast. Everyone was immediately moved. Go. Swish. Swish. 4 grandmasters and more than a dozen Zhou Wanqiu masters rushed towards Su Chen. Su Chen sneered. Facing more than 20 masters, Su Chen did not retreat but advanced. He stomped his foot. Boom. Suddenly, a cloud of dust exploded on the ground, and Su Chen's figure had already rushed towards the crowd. The 4 grandmasters in the front had sneers in their eyes. Attack together. The 4 of them attacked Su Chen together. Their vitality was not unified and could not be integrated into one. But when they joined forces, they were also amazing. Behind them, there were more than a dozen Zhou Wanqiu masters, all of whom were attacking with Zhou Wanqiu. Generally, even if the innate strong are strong, facing such an attack, they can only temporarily avoid the edge. However, Su Chen smiled coldly. Do you think that there is always more strength in numbers? 9 extremes. The vitality in Su Chen's body swarmed out. After the conversion and amplification of the 9 extremes, it instantly increased to 9 times the power. Su Chen's body also made a creaking sound. The 9-fold increase in strength was a huge test for his meridians and body. However, Su Chen's undefeated golden body and longevity energy could barely support him. Boom. The terrifying force collided fiercely with the combined force of more than 20 Bei family priests, looking for death. This was the only thought in the minds of the Bei family priests. However, the moment the two forces collided with each other, they realized how outrageous their thoughts were. Although Su Chen was just one person, but at this moment, it seemed that there were 9 of him, exerting force at the same time. Moreover, the power attributes were the same, and they instantly merged into one. Su Chen's terrifying force was like a mountain pressing down on his head. In just a moment, the weak person had become a Bei family priest. Bang. Catchy. All the Bei family priests bent their bodies and knees suddenly. The next second. Puff. Everyone vomited blood and flew out. Some people fainted, some fell to the ground, and some staggered. Su Chen also paused and took a deep breath. Such a head-on battle was also a big challenge for him. However, his condition was obviously much better than those Bei family priests on the opposite side. Most of the people on the opposite side had lost their fighting ability at this time. Next, it's a massacre. Su Chen's eyes flashed with coldness. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 520. The real powerful god is here. Although most of these people have lost their fighting ability, but Su Chen did not feel guilty for attacking them. These people are all the Bei family's tributes. After taking the Bei family's money, they must do things for the Bei family. According to the Bei family's past style of doing things, Su Chen did not expect them to do anything good. Besides, if you take money from others, you should help them eliminate disasters. Since they took the Bei family's money, they must bear the risks brought by the Bei family. Su Chen rushed into the crowd. Bang! He stretched out his hand and hit a sword master. The sword master's face was full of fear. He drew out his long sword and chopped it down fiercely. The next second, a terrifying sword energy rushed towards Su Chen. He hoped to use this to force Su Chen back. However, Su Chen stepped on the cloud-wandering step and avoided the vital parts. Then, a golden light flashed on his body. Bang! The undefeated golden body took the sword energy. Seeing Su Chen hit by the sword energy, the sword master just raised a smile on his face. Then, his smile solidified on his face. What is going on? Before he could figure it out, Su Chen had already flashed in front of him. A 7-wound punch hit him hard. Bang, bang, bang. 7 consecutive terrifying explosions directly sent the sword master away. Su Chen's body did not stop. He turned suddenly and pounced on another Yuan-Qi master again. When he met a Zhuanjin master on the road, he killed him with the palm. In the blink of an eye, Su Chen killed another Yuan-Qi master. Golden evil palm. Bang. The Yuan-Qi master wanted to raise his palm to resist, but it was like a mantis trying to stop a chariot, and was instantly blasted. There were even more dead and injured Zhuanjin masters around. At this moment, all the Bei family worshippers were completely crazy. They never thought that the 5 great masters and more than a dozen Zhuanjin masters would attack together, but they were destroyed by one person. The 3 masters, like lambs hunted by wild beasts, died at the first touch. And the Zhuanjin master was even more vulnerable. They might even be killed by the force Su Chen could throw at them. At the beginning, the Dark Force and Bright Force martial artists who were watching and waiting for an opportunity had already run away. And Su Chen was like a tiger coming down from the mountain. In the blink of an eye, he killed so many people that the corpses were everywhere, and the Bei family's worshippers fled. Seeing the only 2 remaining Yuan-Qi masters and 6 or 7 Zhuanjin masters, Su Chen chased them again. If these people were left, they would be trouble in the future. Ah! Spare my life. I don't want to die. Let me go. Some people were so scared that they knelt on the spot, some were so scared that they ran and shouted, and some were so scared that they pissed and farted. Su Chen ignored those Zhou Wanqiu masters who begged for mercy and went straight to the only remaining Xiantian realm masters. Su Chen caught up with the master and punched him, just about to kill him. "Stop." A loud shout suddenly came from the side. Su Chen stopped. He turned his head and saw an old man with a white beard rushing out with a group of people. Bei Xinlei was among the group of people. The person who just spoke was the old man with white beard. Su Chen immediately understood that the old man with white beard should be the White Dragon King. The master who was caught up by Su Chen suddenly showed a trace of joy on his face. The White Dragon King is here, and he is saved. However, before he could laugh, Su Chen turned around and punched him hard. The terrifying black thunder energy surged out instantly. Boom. A big hole suddenly exploded in his chest. The master looked down at the big hole in his body, his face full of unwillingness. The White Dragon King asked you to stop. Can't you hear it? He looked at Su Chen with a wronged face. Su Chen said coldly, "My ears are not good. Please forgive me." The master of energy looked desperate and fell to the ground and died. Among the 5 masters, only 1 escaped. And among the masters of Zhou Wanqiu, there are only 4 who can still stand. Several people hurried to the side of the White Dragon King. Each of them looked fortunate. If the White Dragon King had come a step later, they would have all died. The only surviving Yuan Qi master was named Zhou Wanqiu. He was the second disciple of the White Dragon King and the senior brother of Crossing Xianjiu. Bang! Zhou Wanqiu suddenly knelt on the ground. His face was full of sorrow. "Master, this bastard killed 4 of our masters. The eldest brother was also killed by him." The White Dragon King's body shook. His 3 disciples, except for Zhou Wanqiu in front of him, the other 2 died in Su Chen's hands. The Bei family swept their eyes across the battlefield, where corpses and blood were everywhere. Everyone was shocked and angry. "Bastard." The White Dragon King's face was full of anger, and his silver teeth were broken. He stared at Su Chen and said angrily, "I told you to stop just now, didn't you hear it?" Su Chen sneered, "You are the White Dragon King, right?" Bei Xinlei shouted angrily, "Bastard. My father's title is the White Dragon King, not the White Dragon Turtle." Hearing this, Su Chen almost laughed out loud. The White Dragon King also glared at Bei Xinlei fiercely. Bei Xinlei was confused. He didn't know why his father was glaring at him. Su Chen, this bastard, was obviously cursing on purpose. "Su Chen, you are so bold that you actually came to my house and started a killing spree. I'm going to report you to the Tiger Guards and sentence you to death." White Dragon King gritted his teeth. Su Chen sneered again and again. "White Dragon King, are you sure? You asked the Tiger Guards to report me. Isn't that like a thief reporting a crime to the police? You probably don't know what your reputation is in the Tiger Guards, do you?" White Dragon King said coldly, "You killed so many of my Bei family's worshippers. You must give me an explanation for this." Su Chen sneered. "An explanation? White Dragon King, you really disappoint me. You sent Crossing Xianjiu to Bincheng to kill me, and then sent Shen Yuanling to attack me, and then sent Qiu Kangiying to kill me. Don't you dare to admit these things like a man. You look like a child who took the initiative to cause trouble, and was beaten and cried, and you still want to find someone to judge. It's ridiculous." White Dragon King's face was so ugly, looking for death. The White Dragon King was furious. He shouted angrily and rushed towards Su Chen. The figure of the White Dragon King was extremely fast. In the blink of an eye, a shadow passed by and the person was already in front of Su Chen. He struck out with a palm. The terrifying vitality, madly gathered and compressed, actually exceeded the limit of the innate realm. Su Chen's eyes shrank. This White Dragon King's cultivation was actually close to the divine realm. Moreover, his skills were also very terrifying. Su Chen waved his hand, condensed his vitality, and after the transformation of the 9 extremes, he rushed towards the White Dragon King fiercely. Bang! The powerful energy of the two collided in an instant. Boom! The terrifying invisible fluctuations suddenly rippled, and a series of terrifying ripples appeared. The people around were directly blown away. Even Zhou Wanqiu, who was in the innate realm, could not resist. However, although the White Dragon King's martial arts cultivation was also extraordinary, but in front of Su Chen, he was still not qualified. It was just a moment. Puff. The White Dragon King's face changed instantly, and a mouthful of blood spurted out. The next second, his body was blown away and fell heavily to the ground. Dad, the head of the family, the head of the Bei family. Everyone was panicked and rushed forward to help the White Dragon King up. The White Dragon King's face was as pale as paper, and his breath was weak. He looked at Su Chen in shock. All along, the White Dragon King believed in one thing: he was invincible under the God realm. But now, after seeing Su Chen's strength, he knew what real terror was. You. Puff. Before the White Dragon King finished speaking, he spurted out another mouthful of blood. Everyone exclaimed. Su Chen stepped forward and was about to attack again. Suddenly, he turned his head and looked at the backyard. The next moment, a terrifying blade light slashed out from the backyard. At a speed faster than the blink of an eye, it slashed towards Su Chen. Su Chen's face changed. The real God realm powerhouse of the Bei family is finally here. The fourth update is here. Chapter 521. He is in the Xiantian realm. A blade light. It seemed to fall from the sky. Everything between heaven and earth seemed to disappear. Only this sharp blade light remained, cutting through everything. Su Chen's face was solemn. He stared at the blade light in front of him. The vitality in his body began to tremble wildly. The black thunder vitality and the flame vitality trembled wildly in Su Chen's body. Under the effect of the 9 extremes, these two kinds of vitality instantly burst out with terrifying momentum. The black thunder vitality in the left hand, the lightning arc flashed. The flame vitality in the right hand, the purple flame leaped. After the 9 extremes were amplified, it exploded with a more extreme effect. Su Chen's two fists merged into one. The two terrifying vitality seemed to merge into one in an instant. Su Chen's hands trembled. He struggled to control the two vitality, and then he combined his fists and hit them fiercely. At this moment, the thunder in the sky stirred the fire on the earth. The explosive energy condensed into a terrifying fist shadow, facing the earth-shaking blade light. Boom. The fist shadow and the blade light collided in the air. Boom. A loud noise, as if it exploded in everyone's ears. The terrifying ripples spread in all directions. Countless buildings of the Bei family collapsed in an instant. The people of the Bei family at the scene were also struck by lightning, and blood came out of their ears and noses. The weaker people were directly shocked and fainted. Su Chen's feet did not move, but his figure was like being pushed, retreating madly. On the ground, a deep mark was plowed. It was more than 10 meters long. Su Chen finally stood firm. At this moment, his blood was surging all over his body. From time to time, there were bursts of bone fractures and collapse in his body, and there was also a violent tearing feeling in his meridians. The longevity energy in Su Chen's body was running wildly, healing all the injuries. The injuries in Su Chen's body were healed at an astonishing speed. But Su Chen's eyes were fixed on the distance. The next moment, a figure appeared directly. It was as if it appeared out of thin air, without the slightest trace. This figure looked only about 50 years old, but his eyes were full of vicissitudes. Seeing the person coming, White Dragon King hurriedly called out, "Big brother." Su Chen was shocked. This guy who looked younger than White Dragon King turned out to be White Dragon King's eldest brother. Wouldn't that mean he was over 80 years old? White Dragon King's real name was Bei Wang, and his eldest brother was named Bei Xiang. Bei Xiang was different from Shen Yuanling. He was an absolute strong man who had been in the God realm for many years. He looked at White Dragon King coldly and said in a cold voice, "You caused trouble and can't solve it. You are such a waste." The arrogant White Dragon King did not dare to show any temper in front of Bei Xiang. He looked at Bei Xiang weakly and said, "Big brother, this kid is weird. Ordinary masters of the innate realm are useless in front of him." Bei Xiang did not comment. He glanced at Su Chen and said calmly, "You came to my Bei family to make a scene and committed an unforgivable crime. I'll give you a chance. Kneel down and acknowledge my Bei family as your master. I can spare your life." Su Chen sneered, "Old man, have you been in seclusion for many years and made yourself stupid? I'll also give you a choice. Kneel down and acknowledge me as your master, and I'll spare the Bei family." Hearing this, everyone in the Bei family was furious. "How dare you? You actually speak to my Bei family's martial god like this? This kid is courting death. Kill him. Everyone shouted. The appearance of Bei Longxiang gave them the courage to shout. Su Chen looked at everyone with cold eyes and then stomped his feet suddenly. Suddenly, a burst of vitality exploded directly from the ground towards everyone in the Bei family. Everyone was shocked and tried to dodge. HMPH. Bei Longxiang swung his knife directly. A blade of light, like a thread, forcibly robbed Su Chen's vitality. Boom. The ground exploded. Everyone in the Bei family was directly covered in dust. Arsehole. Everyone was in a mess and couldn't help cursing. Su Chen looked over coldly. Suddenly, everyone in the Bei family retreated one after another, and no one dared to speak. Bei Longxiang was furious and said, "What an arrogant boy. Originally, I saw that it was not easy for you to practice, so I had a heart of admiration for your talent. But you insisted on seeking death, then you can't blame me." As soon as the voice fell, Bei Longxiang raised his long sword. In an instant, the air around seemed to be sucked dry. Everyone suddenly felt difficulty breathing. Su Chen looked serious. This Bei Longxiang was going to take real action. This guy was not at the same level as Shen Yuanling, although both of them were martial gods. But Su Chen estimated that Bei Longxiang could kill more than 3 Shen Yuanlings. Otherwise, the meridians in Su Chen's body would not still be aching. The terrifying aura was condensed on Bei Longxiang's sword, split the mountains, and cut off the sea. A roar. Then, a huge blade light that was tens of meters long instantly chopped towards Su Chen. At this moment, he was locked by the terrifying aura. Su Chen's face changed. Undefeated golden body. 9 extreme strength. Cloud traveling body step. The golden light of the earth was ready. Even so, Su Chen was still unsure. The terrifying blade light, like a giant axe that created the world, chopped towards Su Chen with the momentum of annihilating everything. Even before being hit, Su Chen felt that his body was faintly cracking. What a terrible blade force. Su Chen's face changed drastically. At this moment, he felt a life and death crisis. No wonder King Mui asked him to be more careful. No wonder she said that the gap between the immortals on land was as big as the sky. The blade light finally fell, like the world collapsing. Su Chen gathered his vitality and went up again. But in just a moment, he began to show signs of collapse. No, this bastard is too strong. Su Chen's mind moved. Then, he was going to activate the golden light of the earth to avoid this attack. At this moment, a terrifying ki force attacked from behind Su Chen, like a galaxy hanging from the sky. It hit Bei Longxiang's terrifying sword aura. Crack. The ki force disappeared, and Bei Longxiang's terrifying sword aura also collapsed instantly. Su Chen immediately put away the golden light that stretched to the ground. These collapsed sword auras were nothing to him. Bang. Su Chen's undefeated golden body could completely bear it. He stepped back repeatedly, his blood boiling, but it was not a big deal. And Bei Longxiang flashed in an instant, blocking in front of the Bei family, and blocking all the ki force. His eyes looked into the distance. A loud shout came out, "Who dares to interfere in the affairs of my Bei family? Get out." Su Chen turned his head, and looked not far away. A graceful figure walked out slowly. It was King Mui. King Mui was a little annoyed and glared at Su Chen. "This bastard is too fast. I didn't even catch up. Fortunately, I rushed over with all my strength, otherwise this little bastard would have been beaten to death." King Mui. Bei Longxiang gritted his teeth and said, King Mui, you, a high-ranking member of the Qin Huai, are you going to help the tyrant? This bastard killed so many of my Bei family's priests. You didn't catch such a bastard, but protected him instead? King Mui said coldly, "Why did he attack your Bei family? I think your Bei family should know better than others, right? Of course, this is your grudge. I won't get involved." Bei Longxiang's eyes were cold. "You have already tried to stop me, and you say you don't want to get involved." King Mui smiled softly. "I tried to stop him, because it's against the rules for you, a land immortal, to attack ordinary warriors. Did the great martial god Bei forget that masters in the divine realm are not allowed to attack recklessly, even if they are at the demigod level?" Bei Longxiang glared. "This bastard's strength is already at the divine realm level." King Mui smiled, but the reality is, he is a genuine innate level. Bei Long Xiang's face instantly turned ugly. Chapter 522 Don't make things difficult for yourself. Bei Long Xiang's face was extremely ugly. Although he was unwilling to admit it, what King Mui said was all reality. This young man who came to the Bei family to seek revenge was only at the Xianshan realm. Even though Su Chen had suppressed the entire Bei family and couldn't raise his head, he was still only at the Xianshan realm. King Mui, do you find it interesting to say this? Su Chen's current combat power is completely that of a strong man at the level of the god realm. Bei Long Xiang said with a gloomy face. King Mui smiled faintly. I don't care about combat power or not. The Xianshan realm is a Xianshan realm. You Bei family, are you willing to use other Xianshan masters to kill him? I don't care. But if you, the great martial god Bei, take action, I will definitely stop you. A fierce light flashed in Bei Long Xiang's eyes. He said coldly, King Mui, do you think you can stop me? As soon as the voice fell, he raised the long sword in his hand. The next moment, a terrifying aura was stirred again in an instant. King Mui's face instantly became cautious. Su Chen was also on high alert. At this moment, a chuckle came. If King Mui is not enough, how about adding me? Hearing this, King Mui's face relaxed immediately. The others present were stunned. Turning their heads to look, they saw a bright light flashing from the sky. In the blink of an eye, it was already beside everyone. The person coming was a middle-aged woman. Su Chen raised his eyebrows. He knew this person. It was Zhang Jinqiu. Bei Long Wang's face sank. Bei Long Xiang's expression was even more gloomy. He snorted and said, Zhang Jinqiu, what do you mean? You stand on Su Chen's side. Is it Fang Bingbang's intention? Fang Bingbang is the head of a province. If he stood up and put up a clear banner to support Su Chen, even the Bei family would need to be cautious. Therefore, Fang Bingbang would not easily stand on the side. After all, the impact is too great. Zhang Jinqiu smiled faintly. I'm not standing on the side of anyone, but to maintain the order of the powerful gods. If you are a powerful god, don't interfere in the battles below the god. You. Bei Long Xiang's face was extremely ugly. You can see that this kid has slaughtered nearly 20 people in my Bei family. If I don't interfere, won't my Bei family be killed by him alone? Zhang Jinqiu's face was calm. Every grievance has its perpetrator, and every debt has its creditor. I believe that there is no hatred without reason, and I believe that there is no grudge that cannot be resolved. Just make your grudges clear, and then discuss the solution. Isn't that enough? The faces of the people in the Bei family were gloomy. Zhang Jinqiu said that he would not help either side, but in fact he was still protecting Su Chen. Now it seems that the Bei family will not get any good this time. Su Chen stepped forward and said in a cold voice, the feud between the Bei family and me began with Ding Dong Heo, a subordinate of the White Dragon King. In the Medicine King Valley, Ding Dong Heo attacked me in order to snatch the elixir from me and was finally killed by me. After that, the White Dragon King held a grudge against me for this. He successively sent his third disciple crossing Xianjiu and the head of the first family in Bincheng, Jing Weibing, to attack me. Today, he sent the shadow chasing killer Shen Yuanling and the shadow Taoist Qiu Kang Ying to attack and kill me. The White Dragon King has provoked me again and again and caused serious injuries to my relatives and friends. I must come to seek revenge. The White Dragon King had an ugly expression. What does Shen Yuanling's assassination of you have to do with me? And this time, Taoist Qiu went to deal with you because you killed his fellow disciple Yushan in Yicheng. Su Chen looked at him coldly. Haha. How come you know so much about the feud between Qiu Kang Ying and me? The White Dragon King's tone stagnated. Su Chen sneered. You can argue as you like. If you don't want to negotiate, then let's continue the fight. As he spoke, Su Chen's vitality surged. It seemed that he would strike with thunder in the next second. A gloom flashed across the face of the White Dragon King. The Bei family members were terrified and retreated one after another. Now, with King Mui and Zhang Jinqiu by his side, Bei Long Xiang could no longer stop Su Chen. If Su Chen took action, the Bei family members would only be slaughtered. At this time, Bei Long Xiang said coldly, rights and wrongs, grudges, are not important now. We don't need to discuss them in detail. Tell me, how to solve it? Su Chen smiled coldly, not talking about right and wrong. Grudges means you also know that you are in the wrong. As for the solution, it is also very simple. Apologize and compensate. Everyone in the Bei family was humiliated. Someone came to their house and slaughtered so many worshippers, and they even had to apologize and compensate. As the head of the 8 major families in the provincial capital, how could he have experienced such humiliation? Bei Longxiang looked at the White Dragon King. White Dragon King gritted his teeth and said, okay, I apologize to you, and then compensate you with 5 billion. Su Chen shook his head. Are you sending away beggars? The Bei family is the leader of the 8 major families in the provincial capital. A mere 5 billion is not sincere at all. 20 billion. When this number was said, everyone in the Bei family gasped. White Dragon King's second disciple Zhou Wanqiu immediately shouted, impossible. You killed 2 of my fellow disciples, and also killed such a multi-key master. The Bei family has suffered heavy losses. Before he finished speaking, Su Chen looked at him coldly and raised his hand to hit him. The violent black thunder energy exploded instantly. Zhou Wanqiu's eyes were filled with fear. On the side, Bei Longxiang wanted to stop him. However, Zhang Jinqiu and Qin King Mui burst out with their energy and locked onto him. If he made any unusual movements, the two would probably take action immediately. In the blink of an eye, the violent black thunder energy instantly hit Zhou Wanqiu. Bang! Zhou Wanqiu, who was already seriously injured, was blown away and fell to the ground. He was black all over, and his face was covered in blood. His eyes were full of disbelief. You. Before Zhou Wanqiu finished speaking, his head tilted, and he was completely dead. Wanqiu. Bei Longwang roared in grief. After the 3rd disciple and the eldest disciple, his 2nd disciple also died in Su Chen's hands. Bei Longwang turned his head and stared at Su Chen. Su Chen said coldly, I'm notifying you, not discussing with you. Bei Longwang was so angry that his teeth were about to break. He said in a deep voice, okay, 20 billion. I agree. Su Chen nodded. Then let me tell you the second condition. What? There is a second condition? Too arrogant. Everyone in the Bei family couldn't help but roar. Su Chen turned his head and glanced at them, and everyone quickly shut up. Bei Longwang took a deep breath. You say? Su Chen said coldly. Qiu Kangiying attacked me and injured my people. Therefore, I want your Bei family to compensate me with 5 spiritual medicines for treating mental injuries. The White Dragon King said with hatred, we in the Bei family don't have so many spiritual medicines. Then 2 spiritual medicines and 3 physical medicines. Su Chen said. The White Dragon King nodded with a tense face. Su Chen continued, next, the 3rd condition. At this moment, the White Dragon King couldn't help but look at Su Chen. Don't go too far. Su Chen said, this is the last condition. You say? The White Dragon King squeezed out 2 words from his teeth. Su Chen said, I want you to return all the assets you have taken from the Han family. What? This is impossible. The White Dragon King said angrily, what does this have to do with you? Su Chen said indifferently, Han Qiwei and I are friends regardless of age difference. His family's affairs are my affairs. Is this an acceptable reason? Your Bei family has occupied the Han family's property, and your means are particularly despicable. The Tiger Guards have to collect evidence to deal with you, but I don't need it. If you agree, everything will be fine. If you don't agree, then we don't need to reconcile. I will use the means you used against the Han family on your Bei family. Su Chen's words were full of threats. The White Dragon King's teeth creaked. Su Chen's eyes turned cold. If you don't agree, forget it. Don't make it difficult for yourself. As soon as the voice fell, boom. A sound of wind and thunder exploded. Su Chen's figure flashed directly into the crowd of the Bei family. He grabbed the White Dragon King. Bei Longxiang's figure flashed immediately. Qin King Mui and Zhang Jinqiu had been staring at him for a long time. The moment Bei Longxiang moved, the 2 men flashed in front of him and raised their hands to stop him. Bei Longxiang was forced to retreat. At this moment, Su Chen had already rushed in front of the White Dragon King. A big hand directly grabbed the White Dragon King's neck and lifted him up. Chapter 523 Physical Defects. The next second, Su Chen stepped back and stood in front of the Bei family again. However, with his left hand, He pinched the White Dragon King's neck and lifted him up high. Su Chen's hand exerted a little force. Crack. A slight bone fracture sounded. The White Dragon King's face was flushed, blood was oozing from the corners of his mouth, and his legs kicked wildly in the air. It seemed that he could die at any time. The Bei family was so scared that they trembled all over and screamed in panic. And Bei Longxiang was even more anxious. He immediately shouted, "Stop, our Bei family agrees to your conditions." "Really?" Su Chen looked at Bei Longxiang coldly. "If you don't want to, you really don't have to force it." Bei Longxiang wanted to tear Su Chen apart alive, but he could only grit his teeth and say, "In the Bei family, my words are the final decision." Su Chen glanced at Bei Xinlei and other Bei family members and asked, "You all have no objection, right?" The Bei family waved their hands again and again. "No, no." Su Chen loosened his hand. With a snap, the White Dragon King fell directly to the ground. Ahem. He half knelt on the ground, coughing crazily. Su Chen said coldly, "Hurry up, I'm in a hurry." Everyone in the Bei family immediately got busy. After a while, Bei Xinlei came over with a bank card and 5 wooden boxes. "There are 20 billion in the card, please check it. In addition, here are 2 spiritual medicines and 3 spiritual medicines that are useful for the body. As for the Han family's assets, we will return them to them tomorrow morning." Bei Xinlei bowed his head deeply. Su Chen took the things and said coldly, "I hope you don't do anything weird with the Han family, otherwise I don't mind doing it again. You know, I get a price for every time I make a move." Hearing this, everyone in the Bei family turned pale. Bei Xinlei could only bow his head and grit his teeth and said, "Okay, we understand." Su Chen glanced at everyone indifferently and turned away directly. King Mui and Zhang Jinqiu didn't say anything and followed him. Everyone in the Bei family immediately breathed a sigh of relief. "Dad." Bei Xinlei hurriedly ran to Bei Long Wang and helped him up. At this time, the redness on Bei Long Wang's face faded, his expression was as gloomy as water, and even his appearance was a little older. Everything that happened today was a huge blow to him who was arrogant. Bei Xinlei said with humiliation on his face, "Dad, this time our Bei family has lost face. You have to think of a way." Slap. A slap hit Bei Xinlei's face hard. Bei Long Wang said coldly, "I will find a way. I will find a way. You only know how to let me find a way. Are you a waste? If I had a way, would I let that little beast come to my door?" Bei Xinlei was stunned and then quickly lowered his head. All the Bei family members felt very aggrieved, but seeing Bei Xinlei's end, they dared not say anything. The White Dragon King turned to look at Bei Longxiang. "Brother, how do you think we should deal with this matter?" Bei Longxiang frowned. "Now, I can't deal with that kid in a big way. The Dragon Slayer gods are still visiting secretly, and the masters of the divine realm cannot act recklessly. You shouldn't have let Shen Yuanling and Qiu Kangiying take action. Otherwise, with 3 of us present tonight, how could that kid be so arrogant?" The White Dragon King's face was grim. "I didn't expect that the bastard would be so difficult. We are also unlucky. Shen Yuanling happened to be seriously injured by King Mui and Qiu Kangiying." Having said that, the White Dragon King didn't say anything more. He has realized that Qiu Kangiying is likely to have died. Bei Longxiang cursed. King Mui and Zhang Jinqiu are 2 bitches. If they hadn't stopped him, how could that bastard be so rampant? These 2 women dared to interfere in the affairs of the Bei family. We can't let them go like this. The White Dragon King hurriedly said, "Brother, Zhang Jinqiu is Fang Dingbang's man, and he can't be touched. Fang Dingbang is a local lord. Such a person should not be provoked." Bei Longxiang said coldly, "Zhang Jinqiu cannot be touched, but King Mui must teach her a lesson." The White Dragon King's eyes showed a thoughtful look. "I think it's okay. Next, I will arrange it." Bei Longxiang nodded. On the other side, Su Chen returned with a full harvest. Beside him, followed King Mui and Zhang Jinqiu. Su Chen first bowed to Zhang Jinqiu and thanked him. "Senior Zhang, thank you. I really didn't expect that you would come to help me." Zhang Jinqiu smiled. "Mr. Su, don't talk nonsense. I'm not here to help you. I received a message from Captain Qin saying that the Bei family's divine realm was going to attack the Xianshan realm masters, so I came to stop them." Zhang Jinqiu said seriously. "Ha ha ha. The three of them laughed immediately. Su Chen finally understood why Zhang Jinqiu suddenly appeared. He turned to look at Qin Mui and said with a smile, "Didn't you say you were just passing by? Why are you walking with me again?" Qin Mui rolled her eyes. "The Bei family is not stupid. They all know that I'm with you. Why should I pretend?" Speaking of this, Qin Mui looked Su Chen up and down and sighed. "I thought we were here to save you. But you, this guy, are so strong in combat that you can withstand Bei Xiang's sword. You know, this old guy has been immersed in the realm of gods for a long time, and his cultivation is very terrifying, far from that of ordinary gods." Su Chen shook his head and said with a little regret, "It still doesn't work. After I withstood his first sword, I felt I couldn't bear it anymore. If there are 2 more swords, I'm afraid my physical body will collapse, and I can only turn around and run." Hearing Su Chen's serious analysis, Qin Mui couldn't help rolling her eyes. "Please, you are only in the Xianshan realm. It's a miracle that you can withstand Bei Xiang's sword. What else do you want? Do you want to fight him back and forth?" Su Chen smiled and didn't refute. This time, his confrontation with Bei Xiang made Su Chen realize his shortcomings. He thought that his body was strong enough. However, during the battle, he found that the pressure of the 9 extremes on the body was very high. Although Su Chen's understanding of the 9 extremes has reached the highest 5th level, theoretically it can exert a 9-fold increase. But in fact, he did not exert such a great power. The reason is that the body can hardly withstand such a great force. Therefore, when Su Chen asked for spiritual medicine, he changed it to 2 spiritual medicines and 3 physical medicines. He wanted to use this to make up for his shortcomings. Su Chen bowed to the 2 again and said, "Thank you very much for this time. If there is anything I can do for you in the future, just let me know." Zhang Jinqiu smiled and said, "Mr. Su, you are too polite. This time, I'm also doing things within the rules. If you do not follow the rules, I will not interfere." Su Chen nodded. Fang Bingbang's identity is special, and Zhang Jinqiu's words and deeds are also restricted. However, even so, Su Chen is very satisfied. Zhang Jinqiu smiled and said, "Mr. Su, keep up the good work. When you break through the divine realm in a few years, the Bei family will be nothing. I'm leaving first. Goodbye." Su Chen bowed and said goodbye. Zhang Jinqiu's figure disappeared in an instant. Qin Mui looked at the direction where Zhang Jinqiu disappeared and said proudly, "Did you see it? This is my foresight to call Senior Zhang in advance." Su Chen smiled. "Isn't it because you think you can't deal with Bei Xiang?" Swish. The pride on Qin Mui's face solidified instantly. A blush rose on her pretty face. "Su Chen, you won't feel comfortable if you don't get angry with me, right?" Qin Mui asked with eyes wide open. Su Chen smiled. Okay, I was wrong." Qin Mui calmed down. She said angrily, "Next, you must be careful. The White Dragon King will not let it go." Su Chen nodded. Chapter 524 A dragon appears in Dongzhou. Qin Mui continued, "This time, you've made the Bei family suffer a lot. I guess they're going to hate you like crazy, so you better be careful." Su Chen nodded. "Yeah. But don't worry too much. These people won't dare to attack me again unless they are sure of winning. Before they kill me completely, the Bei family won't even dare to touch the people around me. But by the time they are sure enough to deal with me, I might have already reached the God realm." Qin Mui glanced at Su Chen. "Do you think the God realm is easy to get into? It's so easy to say. Do you know how many peak Xianshan realm people are stuck at this step and can't get through it, no matter how hard they try?" Su Chen smiled and said nothing. Qin Mui looked at Su Chen's expression, her face a little embarrassed. To be honest, this matter doesn't seem to be too difficult for Su Chen. Thinking of this, Qin Mui didn't dare to draw conclusions about Su Chen, for fear that Su Chen would slap her in the face later. Okay, I'm going back. I'm annoyed when I see you." Qin Mui's figure flashed and disappeared. Su Chen looked puzzled. This woman is really good at running away when she can't win the argument. Su Chen shook her head and rushed back to Sun Zheoxian's villa. On the other side, in Fang Dingbang's study. Click. The door opened and Zhang Jinqiu walked in. Fang Dingbang, who was still looking at the documents, raised his head slightly and smiled. "You're back. Nothing unexpected happened. It was a bit unexpected. Zhang Jinqiu smiled, but it was a surprise Su Chen gave me. Fang Bingbang immediately became interested. He put down the documents and asked, "What's the surprise, Mr. Su?" Zhang Jinqiu smiled and told him what happened tonight. Fang Bingbang was shocked. Su Chen is so powerful. Isn't he in the innate realm? How could Chen Yuanling not take advantage of him? And he could let Qiu Kangiying die in his hands? Even Beilang Xiang couldn't do anything to him? This is a bit impossible, right? Fang Bingbang had a question mark on his face. Zhang Jinqiu shook his head and smiled bitterly. If I hadn't seen it with my own eyes, I wouldn't believe it. But he did it. When he steps into the realm of gods in the future, I'm afraid killing gods will be as easy as drinking water for him. Su Chen's future is limitless. Fang Bingbang was surprised and exclaimed, "It seems that our Dongzhou province is going to produce a dragon." Zhang Jinqiu nodded. Sun Zhaoxian's villa. Everyone's face was full of worry. Although Su Chen looked confident, but everyone's heart was still a little uncertain. After all, Su Chen went to the Bei family to cause trouble. Sun Zhaoxian couldn't sit still at all and walked back and forth in the hall. Zhu Qinglian's face was also worried. If Su Chen got into trouble in the Bei family, she and Sun Zhaoxian would probably have to leave the provincial capital quickly. On the sofa, Tan Xiang was taking care of the unconscious Tan Yangshan while looking out from time to time. Obviously, she was also very worried about Su Chen. At this moment, the door suddenly opened and Su Chen's figure walked in from outside. "Mr. Su. Mr. Su is back." Several people's eyes lit up and they quickly stood up to greet him, their faces full of surprise. Sun Zhaoxian said happily, "Mr. Su, you are finally back. I was so nervous that I almost had a heart attack. My right eyelid kept twitching and I was so scared that I pressed it for a long time." Su Chen smiled. Zhu Qinglian also smiled and said, "Fortunately, Mr. Su, you are back. This big stupid bear has been walking back and forth in the hall for nearly thousands of times, and it almost made Xiaoying and I dizzy." Everyone laughed suddenly. Tan Xiang didn't say anything, but her face was full of happy smiles. Su Chen threw the bank card to Sun Zhaoxian. "This is for you." Sun Zhaoxian was stunned, and he asked, "Mr. Su, what do you mean?" Su Chen said lightly, "Nothing. There are 20 billion in it." After saying this, Sun Zhaoxian's body softened, his hands trembled, and he almost threw the card out. "What?" Sun Zhaoxian's face was full of shock. Zhu Qinglian and Tan Xiang were also stunned. Su Chen smiled and said, "Go back and divide the money into 2 cards. One for 10 billion. 10 billion, you take it. The other 10 billion, give it to Mr. Tan." Sun Zhaoxian was almost dumbfounded. He waved his hands and said, "No, no. Mr. Su, I can't take your money if I don't do anything." Tan Xiang also shook her head. "Yes. My dad can't take this money either." Su Chen smiled and said, "This money is not from me. This is the compensation from the White Dragon King to you. The 3rd floor of your house was smashed by Qiu Kangiying. This is the renovation money compensated by the White Dragon King. And Mr. Tan, Qiu Kangiying injured his spiritual consciousness. This is the medical expenses." Sun Zhaoxian was stunned on the spot. 10 billion for renovation? His villa is not even worth 100 million. Just because a room on the 3rd floor was damaged, he had to compensate himself with 10 billion. Sun Zhaoxian and Tan Xiang refused again and again. But Su Chen frowned and asked them to accept it, and the two had no choice but to accept it. Then, Tan Xiang asked cautiously, "Mr. Su, have you found medicine for my father's injury?" Su Chen smiled and showed the elixir in his hand. "Don't worry, I've got it." Tan Xiang was overjoyed. "Thank you, Mr. Su." Su Chen chose the more suitable one from the 2 spiritual elixir plants. Kyanglu fruit. After cutting the Kyanglu fruit, a stream of white and crystal juice flowed down. Su Chen quickly put the Kyanglu fruit to Tan Yangshan's mouth. The juice flowed directly into his mouth. Su Chen immediately took out the silver needle and quickly inserted it into Tan Yangshan's head to help him absorb the medicinal power of the Kyanglu fruit. After a while, the pain on Tan Yangshan's face subsided. Even his face began to turn red. Su Chen directly pulled out the silver needle and stood up. Tan Xiang looked nervous. "Mr. Su, my father." Su Chen smiled and pointed at Tan Yangshan. Tan Xiang quickly turned her head to look. Tan Yangshan's eyelashes flickered, and then he opened his eyes. Dad? Tan Xiang shouted excitedly. I'm fine. Then, a trace of nervousness appeared on Tan Yangshan's face. Where is that Taoist priest? Su Chen smiled and said, that Taoist priest is called Shadow Taoist, Qiu Kangiying. I have killed him, and his body was taken away by the tiger guards. What? Tan Yangshan's eyes widened, with a look of lack of confidence. But, that Taoist priest has already cultivated a spiritual god, and has reached the realm of gods. Mr. Su, did you kill the immortal on land? Su Chen smiled. It was also because Qiu Kangiying was careless, otherwise I would not be able to kill him. Tan Yangshan was a little numb. This is the realm of gods. Even if he was careless, it was not something that the innate realm could deal with. At this time, Sun Zhaoxiang interrupted and said, Mr. Tan, are you shocked by this? I haven't told you something more shocking yet. What is it? Tan Yangshan asked. Sun Zhaoxiang said with a smile, Mr. Su killed that Qiu Kangiying, and went straight to the Bei family. He not only killed people in the Bei family, but also asked for 20 billion. Even the elixir for your treatment was from the Bei family. Tan Yangshan was already confused. Su Chen said, don't talk about that. Old Tan, how do you feel about your health now? Tan Yangshan stood up, shook his head and said, I feel that I'm in very good condition now. Before, my spiritual sea of consciousness was injured by Taoist Qiu, but now it seems to be healed. Also, my mental power has also improved a little. Su Chen nodded. This is the effect of the Kyanglu fruit. It is indeed a elixir specifically for mental power. Su Chen chatted with a few people for a while, and prepared to leave. Sun Zhaoxiang said, Mr. Su, it's already this late, don't go back to the hotel. Although my villa is not big, there are many rooms. You can stay here for one night. Su Chen thought about it, and did not refuse. In the room, Su Chen sat cross-legged on the bed. While analyzing the battle, he was also thinking about his own path of cultivation. Chapter 525 3 Bows and 9 Kowtows. Su Chen sat cross-legged in the room. His face was full of contemplation. This battle with the Bei family gave him a clear understanding of his own strength. The ordinary Xianshan realm was no match for him. One-on-one, Su Chen could kill ordinary masters in seconds. Unless the Xianshan master he met had special means, or was specialized in one. For example, formation, talisman, horizontal training. After all, Su Chen was not sure if there was a pervert like him. If it was just a master of Zhuanjin in front of Su Chen, it was basically no different from an ordinary person. As for the strong in the god realm, unless they have been in the god realm for many years. Otherwise, the strong who just entered the god realm can no longer pose a big threat to Su Chen. Su Chen was quite satisfied with the battle tonight. Now, my spiritual power cultivation, Yin Shen, has been fully developed. If you want to improve again, you must find the yang qi of heaven and earth to condense Yang Shen. But this kind of thing is hard to come by. You can only try your luck. In terms of spiritual power cultivation, Su Chen can only choose to put it aside for the time being. In terms of vitality, I have already cultivated to the peak. What I can do now is to find high-grade vitality with different attributes, to make myself more versatile. But this also depends on luck. If you can't find it, it's all in vain. The rest is to find an opportunity to break through the divine realm. Su Chen shook his head. The cultivation of vitality and mental power is all about luck. Now what can be improved is the physical body. Although the invincible golden body is strong, it can only resist the attacks of the innate realm at present. If it encounters an attack from the divine realm, it will still be unable to resist. Moreover, the strength of the physical body has affected the performance of the 9 extremes, and indirectly affected the actual combat effectiveness. Therefore, if you want to improve your strength again, you still have to start with strengthening the physical body. Su Chen thought, while determining the follow-up direction. Then, Su Chen took out the spiritual medicine extorted from the Bei family, and checked them one by one. The 3 spiritual medicines for the physical body are of good quality. Su Chen thought about it briefly, and figured out how to use these 3 spiritual medicines. If we use these 3 spiritual herbs, we will need some common herbs to match them. Among the spiritual herbs left in Bincheng, there are also spiritual herbs that can be used in combination with these 3. Let Zhou Wanqiu mail them to me. Or, wait for her to bring them to me when she comes to the provincial capital. Su Chen kept thinking in his heart. Oh, let's talk about it tomorrow. Su Chen shook his head and gave up the idea of calling Zhou Wanqiu now. The next day, Su Chen woke up early in the morning. Sun Zhaoxian was afraid of disturbing Su Chen's rest, so he sent him a message asking him to have breakfast. After seeing the message, Su Chen didn't hesitate to wash up and went downstairs. Zhu Qinglian's cooking skills are really good. Even a simple breakfast is rich and delicious. Sun Zhaoxian is really lucky to marry such a wife. On the side, Tan Yangshan, who came to protect Sun Zhaoxian, also praised him repeatedly. Just as Su Chen was feasting, ding-ling-ling, a phone rang. Su Chen looked down and saw that it was Han Kiwi calling. Answer the phone. Han Kiwi's excited voice came. Mr. Su, did you do it? This morning, the Bei family came to our Han family and returned all the assets that were embezzled from our Han family. Mr. Su, did you do it? Su Chen smiled and nodded. It was me. The White Dragon King sent people to attack and kill me last night, and I went directly to the Bei family and mentioned the Han family's affairs by the way. Han Kiwi was very excited. I knew it. It must be you. Mr. Su, where are you now? Our whole family wants to thank you in person. Su Chen refused again and again, but Han Kiwi insisted on seeing him. In the end, Su Chen could only send the location of Sun Zhaoxian's house. After hanging up the phone, Su Chen was quite helpless. Sun Zhaoxian asked, Mr. Su, who is this? Su Chen said, Han Kiwi, the head of Han Kiafeng's main line. The Han family, one of the 8 major families in the provincial capital. Sun Zhaoxian was very surprised. Are they coming over? The more forces Su Chen had under his command, the happier he was. Su Chen nodded and said, I helped him a little last night, so he wanted to come and thank me. Sun Zhaoxian said happily, that's great. I just happened to get to know him. What did you do for the head of the Han family? Sun Zhaoxian was very curious. Su Chen told him about the situation of the Han family and then introduced his 3rd request last night. Sun Zhaoxian and his wife and Tan Yangshan were all stunned on the spot. The Bei family has already eaten up hundreds of billions of assets, and they will spit it out? This is incredible. Sun Zhaoxian exclaimed. Su Chen smiled. What's incredible about this? The Bei family is also mortal. Beat them until they are convinced, and they will naturally spit it out obediently. Sun Zhaoxian and Tan Yangshan looked at each other. A trace of shock flashed in their eyes. They all understood that the Bei family might have been bleeding last night. If not, how could they spit out the meat they had eaten? Soon, the Han family arrived. Seeing the arrival, Su Chen and others were a little confused. Because there were too many Han family members coming. Men, women, young and old, all came in large numbers. There were even babies in arms. If Su Chen guessed correctly, all the direct and collateral branches of the Han family should have come. More than 100 members of the Han family all poured into Sun Zhaoxian's villa. Originally, Sun Zhaoxian's villa was not small, but at this time, it seemed extremely crowded. In the hall, only a few direct descendants of the Han family were allowed to stand inside. Otherwise, there was really no room to stand. Seeing this scene, Sun Zhaoxian and others were dumbfounded. Su Chen was also confused. He looked at Han Kiwi and asked with a wry smile, Mr. Han, what are you doing? Han Kiwi's eyes flashed with tears. Mr. Su, thank you for saving my Han family. Today, I brought 132 direct and collateral branches of the Han family to thank you. We kowtow to you. The voice fell. Han Kiwi took the lead and knelt down. Behind him, the Han family knelt down in rows. More than 100 people kowtowed to Su Chen together. Su Chen was confused. He hurried forward and stopped Han Kiwi and Han Daozheng. The 2 men ignored Su Chen's obstruction and insisted on paying homage to Su Chen. In the end, more than 100 Han family members gave Su Chen a complete set of 3 bows and 9 kowtows. This scene made Sun Zhaoxian and his wife and Tan Yangshan stunned on the spot. This is the Han family, one of the 8 major families in the provincial capital. The whole family actually paid such a great gift to Su Chen. Su Chen looked at Han Kiwi and his son and smiled bitterly. You two, you are embarrassing me. Han Kiwi said, Mr. Su, this is what we should do. In fact, since the Han family was emptied yesterday, we have been prepared for complete decline. But I, an old man, never thought that you would help us get all our property back in just one day. You saved more than 100 people in our Han family, and we should kowtow to you. Thank you, Mr. Su. As he spoke, Han Kiwi bowed to Su Chen again. Then, more than 100 Han family members burst into tears and shouted in unison, Thank you, Mr. Su. Hundreds of people shouted in unison, all sincerely, one louder than the other. In the hall, several people felt a little tinnitus in their ears. That's enough. That's enough. Su Chen smiled bitterly and waved his hand. Let everyone take a break. Han Kiwi waved his hand. That's enough. I just thanked Mr. Su. Let's go home. Then, more than 100 Han family members, like the ebb tide, quickly left Sun Zheoxian's villa. Fourth update. Good night everyone. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.